doesn't rotate this one. Every time I want to look at it.
You gotta lock it.
But I forgot to.
Lock it, you have to lock it. Yeah.
But if I lock it, it'll lock it in that.
Then you lock it. Yeah. It's really hard.
Found this little, David, you like,
80 to 120.
oh, wow. I got my little package today, this thing that sits on your desk, and you can adjust it up.
Oh, yeah.
So you can stand at it, you can adjust it, or, I mean, I've been trying to figure out how to do this so I could adjust my desk up and down.
It just sits on top of your
Just sits
existing
on top.
desk and goes up and down.
They got it worked out because the thing, you can either, when you're standing, the keyboard goes on top, and when you lower it, it's only about this tall, but there's a drawer that pulls out and your keyboard sits on that with the mouse.
Very nice.
It's got these little hinges on the side that stops up. I was thinking I was going to design one with the hydraulics of a chair, so I could just down with that. But
Is
I
that
saw
what it
this-
does?
Huh? No, this one's just kind of a manual spring, and
Okay.
a counterbalance, but
Okay. We,
pretty amazing.
we built one for one of our employees who wanted
Yeah,
the ability to stand. She wanted to stand all the time.
yeah.
And everybody else in the office was jealous because not only did she have her desk surface, but she had this entire surface underneath.
Yeah. Slide everything in.
So you could have double the real estate for the drawings.
Might as well get started.
Okay, go ahead.
Jeff joining us today?
Yep, Jeff will not be here.
Okay, so we got to pull, you ready?
Okay. All right, good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Albany. The date is February 26th, and we will begin by doing the Pledge of Allegiance. So please join us. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, then we have the roll call.
Sure. Commissioner Arkin,
Here.
Commissioner Moss,
Here.
Commissioner Pilch,
Here.
Chair Donaldson,
Here.
and Chair Eisenman is absent this evening.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Tonight, we have one item, is that right? One item on the consent calendar, and that's a project at 949 Evelyn, including design review and a parking exception. Anyone in the audience who wants to pull this item from the consent calendar can do so if they wish to address the commission on this item, or any commissioner can pull this item from the consent calendar. Do I see and hear anyone? See anyone? Commissioners? No? All right. Then I will accept a motion regarding the consent calendar.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of our consent calendar.
I'll second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So the consent calendar has been approved, and what that effectively means is that the project at 949 Evelyn has been approved. If you're here for that item, you're done. It was done unanimously with consent. There's a 14-day appeal period, at which time someone could appeal our decision, but we have reviewed everything, and our decision on that project is final and becomes effective in 14 days. And good luck with your project going forward. Thank you. All right. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Anyone who wishes can address the commission on items that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward or say anything? All right. I don't see anyone, but I have something I'm going to bring up. I just discovered today that Albany is number 12 on the list of the most exciting suburbs in the United States.
Wow.
Cambridge, Massachusetts is number 1, Berkeley is number 3, Albany is number 12, and others include Tempe, Arizona at 8, Santa Clara at 9, Santa Monica at 5, Miami Beach, Florida at 4, and Lakewood, Ohio at 6. Isn't that interesting?
What is
This is a
the
real
source?
estate company, a real estate blog, Movado Real Estate. I don't even know who they are, but they do this for publicity, and they did a survey on the most exciting big cities in the world, and this one is the most exciting suburbs. And they also had the safest suburbs, and a variety of the friendliest cities in the country. But Albany came in really high. I guess part of the reason is we have a high active life rank. We have a high live music rank. We have a low fast food rank, which is good. A low percentage of our restaurants are fast food, and a high percentage of our restaurants are non-fast food, something like that. There's a young residents rank. We're not so high on that. If we had more young people, we'd be higher on the most exciting list. I thought it was fun and interesting.
Thrilling Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. No, not on the list? Okay.
Not on the list. All right. The next item on our agenda is item PA 1380, which is a new AT&T wireless facility at 520 Cleveland Avenue for design review and a conditional use permit. I'll call for a staff report on that.
Yes, good evening. Before you this evening is a request for design review and a conditional use permit for a new AT&T wireless facility to be installed on a monopole located in the parking lot at 520 Cleveland Avenue. This is the Adhesive Products parking lot. There is an existing monopole at the site which is owned by Crown Castle and contains Sprint antennas. As part of the application, the applicant is proposing to replace the existing wood pole with a new steel pole and will increase the height from 49 feet to 55 feet. The proposed array will include 12 new antennas with 4 antennas in each sector. Supporting equipment will be contained in an equipment shelter located on the ground level in the lease area. In addition to that, there will be a generator that will be included as part of that installation. The Sprint antennas, which are existing on the existing wood pole, will be relocated pursuant to their previously approved conditional use permit on the new pole. So their center line and installation will effectively stay the same. The existing Crown Castle monopole was originally approved in October of 1996 with a conditional use permit. It was substantially constructed in 1997. Sprint more recently received approval to replace their antennas in 2012, and they have completed that work. At this time, they're the only carrier at the site, so this makes AT&T a co-location as it will accommodate 2 carriers. As I mentioned, the generator will be included with this use permit and also with the building permit submittal. And on the dais is a sheet that contains amended conditions. Special condition 1 had a typo. It had an incorrect reference to Sprint. It should be AT&T. And given that the generator will be part of not only this application, but the building permit application and not a deferred submittal, it's been requested that condition 3 be struck from the conditions, which staff does not have an issue with since it's all, the generator will be encompassed as part of the building permit and not deferred. And to give you a visual, I have the...
Will you explain that again? And I'm not sure I understood now. Why is this condition being stricken then?
Yeah, this condition was actually something that came from the previous Sprint application. At that time, Sprint planned to do a deferred submittal for their generator, which is why it was included.
Okay.
The distinction in this case is that the generator is proposed as part of this application.
I understand.
And will be installed as part of the,
Okay.
the scope of work.
Okay, so this is not necessary. Okay, great.
Not sure why our screen is blue.
It's a computer interface with the, is it loose?
Got it. Good.
Thank you. So This is a visual. The monopole on the left is the existing pole with the Sprint antennas. The pole that is on the right, will be the replacement pole. You can see that the Sprint antennas are at the same center line, and AT&T will locate directly above that. It is at the maximum height for the CMX district, which is 55 feet. 55 feet for wireless facilities. It's a 45-foot maximum height with an extension of up to 10 feet for wireless facilities.
So is this accurate as to the placement of current and new? They will be in different locations, or is this just to illustrate?
It's to illustrate the
Okay.
height difference.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Mhm. All right.
That concludes the staff
okay.
report. So
right.
we have the conditions and findings for you. I know the applicant is present this evening.
Okay.
Can address the
Is
commission.
Representative from AT&T Wireless present? Okay, great. If you'd like to come forward over there at the podium and maybe want to say anything about your project, or we might want to ask you some questions, so,
Sure, and
please.
my comments are very brief.
Okay?
I am Tawny Parr. I am appearing on behalf of AT&T Mobility. And we have read and reviewed the findings and the recommendation of approval. And we agree with the findings and the recommendation. We request approval of the project.
Okay?
I'm happy to answer questions if you have any about this project. A couple of features I can highlight for you. Kind of highlight the need for the facility is that there is a significant gap in service in the area of the heavily traveled corridor of I-80 and 580. So this facility is needed to bring reliable, consistent coverage to AT&T's network in that area in the city of Albany, as well as to bring LTE 4G coverage, which is increasingly high-speed, data-driven network. And as the findings point out, just to reiterate, when looking for a location for a facility, AT&T worked hard to find one that not only achieves the coverage objectives, but does so in a manner that's consistent with the community standards. And we're really pleased with this facility. It does that. We're at a zoning designation, which is the preferred zoning designation, CMX, for wireless facilities. We worked hard to keep the antennas. Am I?
Microphone's not.
Oh, you
the
can't hear me. I can hear
microphone's not
myself.
right. Oh, okay.
I won't start over.
Yeah, good.
But just to point out that this is, we're able to co-locate, which is preferred, as well as keep the overall design and height within the standards established by the code. So again, this is a facility that will benefit the city of Albany and conforms nicely with the code standards, and we are again requesting approval of the project.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant from the commission? Okay.
I have a quick question. I don't seem to be able to find it in the plans, but it appears that the new proposed monopole is of a diameter that's slightly larger than the current one. Do you happen to have the diameters of each of those?
You know, I don't have that on these drawings. It is a little bit wider. Coax will run inside the pole instead of on the exterior. Those will be details that we can include in these CDs, the construction drawings as part of the building permit.
Do you know what was modeled in the visual impact analysis?
It looks like the bigger pole.
The diameter of the pole.
Yeah, in the photo simulation. It does look bigger, I agree with you, Phil, it's just hard to know.
It would be that, for that particular model. So they modeled the standard design for a 55-foot steel pole.
Okay.
I had a question. On the lower level along the fence, you have something called a row of RRUSs, which are I guess, remote radio units. Do you know, can you tell us anything about what those are? And I think they're down low, and we probably wouldn't see them. And what function do they serve, do you know?
Sure. And first of all, you are correct. Those are down below. This entire facility is screened by an existing fence.
Yeah.
That has screening inside of it.
Right.
And then the facility will be further fenced in. And I am not the technician, but the remote radio units basically relay, they communicate with the antennas in lieu of coax. It's kind of like a wireless router, if you will. So it's kind of the new
right.
technology that's being used.
All right. All right, are there any other questions for the applicant right now?
Yes. Tonight I've been designated the bad guy, so
Okay.
bear with me. What's it take to get a better looking pole or a better looking design instead of just a monopole? You know, I've seen other installations that are so much more attractive than just a monopole. And I know you guys have put a lot of them in Southern California where a lot of cities do not allow monopoles. Because frankly, I think it's, you know, part of this is design review, and I don't see anything to design or review. So what is it, the question is, what does it take to get a different design?
Well, part of assessing a different design is the coverage objectives, what's there. Also, what's in the area. One of the standard designs that you might find is a tree. In this particular area, it's a row after row of utility poles. I don't know if you've looked at the photosims, but a photosim, the location of this pole is set back on the railroad side of the property, set back at the back end of the property, and is nearly flush with the other poles. So aesthetically, it actually is very compatible with the existing tall structures that are there. You can design something that might look like something else, but if there's nothing else in the surrounding area that it looks like, it actually sticks out much more. This is also, anytime you add anything to a structure, it actually makes it bigger. It makes it more visible. So times that there are what we would call stealth designs that are appropriate is when there are something else in the area that it would match. And in this case, a utility pole is really what's prominent in the area, as well as the existing other similar wireless poles.
Okay. I'm familiar with the trees, the cactus, and such and on down the line, but there are other designs that have been fairly attractive that were skins that were built with the pole, but it does a design.
You may be speaking of what's commonly called a radome design or slimline design. You're seeing much less of those. You may have seen them as designed as flag poles, which in my opinion hardly ever look like a flagpole, very wide in diameter. The type of technology that we're seeing today with the LTE requiring more antennas and the RRUs, the slimline and the radomes are really not compatible with that technology. You can't get it slender enough to look like anything really aesthetic, and again, it wouldn't be compatible with anything in that area.
Yeah, I'm not thinking of the flagpoles type. There's other designs out there. And I just wonder, I know other jurisdictions would not allow this in the Bay Area, and it would have to be somehow stealth or camouflaged. Maybe, I don't know. I know there's telephone poles out there, but I know in the future those telephone poles are going to be coming down and it's going to be underground. So then we're going to end up with this thing sticking up, which actually is very reminiscent of the 1953 horror movie where the robots came and took over the earth and all this stuff. And it looks just like these things with the monopoles. And maybe, I don't know, what do you do for other cities that have issues like this?
Now, perhaps planning can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there's a stealthing requirement. One of the reasons that this is a preferred zoning designation is because it is commercial and industrial in nature, which can accommodate as opposed to other zoning designations. So to say what we do in other jurisdictions, it really depends on a variety of requirements specific to that jurisdiction, the locations of the facilities, the coverage objectives, all of those considerations.
Well, this is our gateway on the freeway, so that's, yeah, it is somewhat industrial, but, you know, just because it is now industrial doesn't mean it always has to be. So, I don't know, I'll get some examples up on the screen for you if I can get them up on my computer, of different designs that people have done that were very attractive and very simple. And it just was not a monopole. I'm just curious, because I know some of my office mates are in design review in San Rafael, and they would never accept something like this. And so that's why I'm wondering what's done in other cities.
One of the features of this facility is that it is a co-location, so we are accommodating 2 carriers on one pole, eliminating the need for another pole. I want to make it clear that the replacement pole replaces the existing pole, so I think there was a question about the existing pole in that diagram, that goes away.
The question was whether it's in the same location, exactly the same spot.
It's actually shifted a little bit on the side of the Sprint equipment.
It does move a little bit.
A little bit, but to accommodate the 2 equipment spaces in that lease area. So anytime that you're working on a stealth design, you also potentially eliminate the ability to co-locate, requiring more facilities.
One of the alternatives you looked at was the other monopole site at, 520 Cleveland, I think, down this, closer to Buchanan. What's with that, and is there any possibility of getting 3 carriers on one pole, and why wasn't that site good for you?
Sure, I'll talk about that. That was 544 Cleveland Avenue.
Okay.
There is an existing pole there. That was 650 Cleveland.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right.
It's an existing pole of 60 feet in height, which is in excess of the current standards set forth in the wireless code. So already it is above what's permitted. The only available center line was in the 40-foot range, which is too low for the coverage objectives, and we provided propagation maps showing that. So AT&T could not go below the existing carriers, which would require going above. As a result, the required separation and so forth, you're looking at a much taller pole, one that exceeds the height limits by 15 or so feet, making it much more prominent.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Phil, do you want
No, go
to
ahead.
continue, or should we, anyone else
Go
who
ahead,
has
Tim.
questions right now?
Not right now, no.
Not right now, okay. All right, that's good, we'll probably call you back here in a second. Let me see if there's anyone else in the public who'd like to address the commission on this item. This is the AT&T facility. Oh, I don't see anyone, okay. Well, I guess I'll bring it back to the commission here. Phil, do you need more time?
No, go ahead and keep going.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Is there anyone who'd like to open up a discussion on this then? I may make sure, I'm going to close the public hearing then. I'm closing the public hearing. I'll bring it back to the commission. Okay,
Okay.
sorry.
Well, I've read through all the documentation that was submitted, and it appears that the facility is, both in compliance with our zoning ordinance and all of our height limitations, et cetera, and also well below the, radio frequency limits that are set by the federal government. So and then I went down and visited this site and looked at it from a number of perspectives, and I found that, from 580, it sort of blends into the hill rather than sticking into the sky. And then from the other direction, it sort of blends into the industrial landscape, other telephone poles and facilities that are down there. So in many ways, something that calls less attention to itself by being sort of industrial in nature, in my mind, is appropriate, and this is that. The only recommendation I'd like to make is that we put a 3-foot diameter limitation on the pole, and if it's any bigger than that, we should revisit it. As I scale the drawing relative to the 2-foot dimension that's given between the antenna arrays, it looks like the pole is only 2 foot 6 inches in diameter as drawn. So if we give them a 3 foot, it does not taper.
You don't think it's tapered?
Not the way it's drawn. But I think if we give it a 3 foot maximum diameter, that ought to be sufficient, at least for what's illustrated. And if it's any fatter than that, I think we want to revisit it, based on some of the concerns that Phil's bringing up. That's the only additional condition I'd propose.
I would ask the commission and staff, for new construction of antennas, do we have a restriction on monopoles, or does this community allow monopoles?
We do allow monopoles.
Okay, so that's something that we could change if we revisit, or if council revisits the wireless ordinance. So we could take care of that consideration that way, but if we allow monopoles, then I think they're perfectly, AT&T is perfectly within their right to bring a monopole design. And I would agree with Commissioner Arkin's comments, and don't have much to add that except that in this siting, a structure like this seems entirely appropriate, and to maximize the height of the structure and maximize the usage of it in this site seems very appropriate, since it is an industrial site in another part of town. I'd want to see shielding. I'd want to see cloaking, but I don't have an issue with the proposal. That's it.
Bill, do you want to say something, or should I go
No,
ahead?
I'm disappointed. And this is an example
Okay.
of what I think could have gone there. It's a monopole with a kind of a frame around it. It's an open frame, similar to, almost, not as complicated or as looking as the old type of triangular shaped power poles, or the same pole we used to have over at Michael's Liquor.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just something a little bit nicer than just a pole.
So making something, in this case, almost more industrial.
Right.
Yeah, looks more
It
like
looks,
industrial
to me,
water tower kind
yeah,
of thing.
to me, it looks nicer than just a single monopole with the antenna sticking out. So, and that's that's when we talk about design.
Well, I agree with you. That's very handsome.
And very simple, very simple.
Cool.
Yeah, all it is, the monopole's in the center, and there's a triangular frame around it. It goes up.
Yeah, nice.
And then it doesn't have all the antennas sticking out.
Well, again, I think suggestions like this, if we revisit the wireless ordinance, are something to put into the ordinance.
Well, it's understandable that this fits our ordinance, but does it fit design review?
Well, our ordinance does speak to design, so we can be more specific about the sorts of designs that we want to have.
And as I mentioned earlier, in some sense, very few cities, except Albany, still allow these monopoles or single poles. There are some, but,
Well, this is the first one we've had.
well, I understand that.
We've had.
But how much do we really like the other one?
We've had upgrades on, last meeting, we had an upgrade on an existing monopole.
We went to a lot of trouble trying to
And
get
this is, in
the,
a way, this is a replacement monopole for one we already have.
right. Well,
so,
you can certainly justify it that
Yeah,
way. You can
yeah.
say, let's just stay with the same ugly and keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Or you could try to do something a little bit nicer.
Yeah, the example you show has the antennas clustered in a
Right.
much smaller diameter, and I'm, not sure what this would have to, become
Yeah.
in order to replicate something like that.
Well, that's why this is an example of a design that's not that far different than what we could probably do here very simply.
Does Commissioner staff know I think the City Council was scheduled to revisit the wireless ordinance, or we were, or both. I'm sorry, I've lost track. Did that ever occur? Is that occurring?
Yeah, I don't
That-
think, though, that, Nick, that we would ever go so far as to prohibit monopoles. I mean,
Why not?
Well, okay, let's just get the question
Yeah.
answered first.
certainly,
It
we
will
do have
be
the right
coming-
to do design review,
Yeah.
and I think that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So,
But so it will be coming.
It will be coming back to you.
Okay.
It is part of your 2014 work plan, and we anticipate that
yeah.
later in the spring, we'll be coming back to you.
Okay. Well then, to answer that, why wouldn't we prohibit monopoles at that time if we review the ordinance?
Well, because we have a number of them.
Well, no, for new construction.
Yeah, yeah.
For new construction.
And I don't know. We haven't been there. We haven't discussed that.
Anyway, I'm just saying that I'm not sure that, I agree, I agree with you now that I've seen that photo, Phil, there are better ways to do this that are more interesting, and that we will have an opportunity to incorporate these sorts of comments and the design that we're looking for into the ordinance so that we have more teeth to come back to the applicants and say, hey, this isn't our ordinance. We require well-designed.
Yeah.
If we allow monopoles, we require well-designed monopoles, not just any old monopole. But I'm not sure that we're able to pursue this further at this time.
Yeah. Well, maybe we might be able to. I don't know. My comments are that I initially had agreed with everything David said. I went out and looked at it from a number of angles and looked at it around in it. It did bother me that the design review part of this meeting was to approve a replacement monopole without doing any change in the design at all. That did kind of bother me, the whole idea of it. But on the other hand, it looks like a utility pole, and there's a whole row of utility poles that goes along there next to the railroad track and the railroad corridor. And it is without doubt a highly industrial area. I've seen a lot of stealth poles, dressed up poles that I thought were really ugly because they look like you're trying to hide something. And so I can have as much trouble with those. And so I just thought, well, this isn't the kind it's okay in this context to have a monopole that everyone knows what it is. It's a cell phone tower. It looks like it's near the freeway. It's serving the freeway, and it looks like a utility facility. So my reaction was that's okay. Even though I will admit to feeling a little funny about not doing any design review, not doing anything to change the design or influence the design by just approving it as a straightforward industrial engineered monopole. So I suppose we have one option, and that would be to continue the item and ask AT&T to come back with a design that is disguised or better integrated into the industrial context of this site. And I think if we do that, we should provide some guidance to them about what we're looking at. The one example that Bill has, and maybe there's others, but
There's tons of them online.
Can you speak to the applicability of the shot clock in this case?
Yeah, it was going to be my next comment. The shot clock on this application is set to expire on Tuesday, March 11th. In every wireless staff report, we always include the provisions of the shot clock. In this case, because it's a co-location, there is, I believe, a 90-day window in which the city is expected to process and take action on the application. If this is continued, we would be in violation of the shot clock because we would go beyond that 90-day window. If you did continue it, we'd have to talk to AT&T about tolling that agreement to extend the time for review. I'm not sure, I can't speak to the applicant as to whether or not that would be feasible on their end, but that's what would be required on our end.
I suppose we could ask the applicant if they agree to a continuance.
Well, let's keep discussing this, because I'm of the same mind you are, Doug, that, if I had knowledge that the power lines along the freeway and other things were going to come down in the near future, then, this thing would be sticking out there all alone.
Yeah.
But it's not. And in many ways, given that context, the casual observer just kind of edits these things out of the landscape.
Yeah.
And something calling more attention to itself, in my mind, is more of a distraction than it is an enhancement. That's really how I'm looking at the specifics here, and I'm looking at it on street view, and it just sort of goes away.
All right, well, I've done my best to lay out some options, and I guess I could take a motion and we can move forward. Phil, do you have something more to say? Yes, we can ask the applicant to, for sure.
You're right, David. These things, you just put them out of your mind because you go, cell tower, ugly. Not even think about, don't look, sometimes avoid your staring at them or looking at them. But there are very simple designs that, this is one of them. Here, pass that down to them. That's one of them that just, we'll take this pole, it's the same pole, same thing, it just shrouds the antennas in a way that you're not seeing a bunch of little things sticking out from the pole. This is, we have to look at how many opportunities we're going to get in this town, this city, this village, to have an input on something that's going to be there for the next 15 to 20 years. So we can gloss it over and say, it's an industrial area, let's forget about it. But it is where 580 and 80 comes into this town, and it is very visible. So do we want people coming down the freeway saying, oh, it's Albany, there's a big, ugly monopole? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. I think that I'm kind of disappointed that we can't do a little bit more design on these than what we're doing. And I understand our ordinance very well. I understand what other cities are doing. But I think this is one of the few opportunities we're going to have to say, come up with something a little bit better. We do it all the time for residential or commercial buildings.
And
So I think in this case, I would like to try to do something a little bit nicer.
Excuse me, sir, are you with the applicant, or? Okay,
yeah, I think that'd be fine. I think you should come forward, and we'd like to hear from you.
My name's Tim Page. I'm with Crown Castle. We're going to own and manage the tower. We currently manage the tower now. While we respect the commission's ideas, I'd like to point out in the staff report on page 9, we meet all your conditions. The planner that we've worked with for months is recommending you approve this. We do not wish to toll this. If you want to change your zoning code, we applaud that.
We have the right for design review, and this is a subjective right that we have, so.
I agree with you.
I understand you meet the conditions, that you do meet the zoning regulations, but design review is our discretion.
So what are we supposed to design to if we already meet the code?
Well, let me ask you this. How many of these poles do you own?
We own approximately 40,000 of them.
Okay. They all look like this?
A great deal of them do, yes.
Not all, though.
No, I agree with you.
When you're in a tough city that is actually concerned about the image of that city, they force you to do something a little bit different. I know this for a fact, so you don't. So
Well,
I
think we can both agree to that, but the time to discuss that is not at the Planning Commission meeting. It's working with staff to come up with a design that's appropriate to the design guidelines, which we have done.
No, that's not correct. That's, I'm sorry, that's the time to come up with a code-compliant design is working with staff. It's this commission that deals with design and what it looks like.
And
I'm not telling you to take
and it's
12-year antennas and take.
And it's
take them off.
staff's responsibility to come up with a project, and if they recommend for approval, then that's what we're trying to support.
Yeah, it's never staff's design to recommend design review. That's our job. Staff looks at it and says, this meets the criteria of our zoning code.
And as I look at this in particular, between two freeways, along a railroad track, completely surrounded by industrial use, this is entirely appropriate for a design.
And
Now, can we make a different design? We make sequoia redwoods, we make sequoia cactuses, we make clock towers, we make water towers. But generally, the time that we do that is at the start of a project, not at the conclusion of it.
No, and I'm sorry we didn't get to it sooner up in front of us. But again, and I understand this is a commercial zone that we are, as a city, are hoping to bring up. So it's a little bit nicer looking. It's not going to be just.
Now,
little-
this, if approved, this use permit expires in 10 years.
Yeah,
So that is something that we could entertain. After 10 years, if you don't want to renew the use permit, then it's entirely appropriate.
yeah. So we'll live with it for something. Okay, I understand your position. You
That's a
don't.
good point.
You don't want
I
to
mean,
do.
that's a
You
good
don't want
point.
to do something different because it's going to cost you money.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, generally speaking, we would take your code and interpret it and come up with a project that's appropriate to your code.
Okay.
We have done so. And all we're asking is that you support staff's recommendation to support the project.
Yes, and
And had we known that there was more design considerations than is expressed in your code, then we would have worked with Ann to come up with something more appropriate.
okay. I understand.
Well, that reinforces Nick's comments, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that, you know, you could have come up with, if you had explicit direction to make an alternative design, that would have been one thing, but I don't think you got any such direction. You know, not letting you entirely off the hook for something ugly, but it is, I still feel, personally myself, it's going to blend in with its environment, and therefore I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Any other?
Well, I just
comments or
want to,
questions?
I do want to make one thing clear to you. There's two parts of this. One's the code and one's design review.
I
The
understand.
design review is under our control. So is the code. But this is where we talk about design review, just like we're talking about some houses tonight that are code compliant houses, that we may have some changes to the design. So that's part of what we do. And I'm sorry it doesn't come up from the start. But then again, in some sense, and I know I'm pushing it and being a little mean here, but in some sense, there's no reason to come up with a average design when you have the capacity to do a nicer design. And so I think that if you took this to most cities in this corridor, they would say, kind of hesitant about the design. So
Well,
I'm just saying, I'm disappointed a little bit that we didn't come up with it sooner and talk to you about the design.
I think you raise a great issue. I mean, but I also think it's in our, you know, we do speak to design in our ordinances and in our code, and that is why people who come with us for other designs, for houses and other buildings, know that they're going to expect a rigorous design review. If we make sure to not miss the opportunity when the wireless ordinance comes back to us to make sure we put design aspects into it, I think that's where we should spend our effort. That's where we should spend our energy in making sure we get this sort of stuff into the reworked ordinance. I don't think we should prolong this right now.
All right. Anything else?
All I have to say
Any
is
other-
not,
any
if
other,
not now,
uh,
when?
Any other
Yeah, when the ordinance
comments?
comes.
Any other comments? Okay.
You know, that's
All right.
kind of after the thing's
All right.
done.
So I think it's appropriate. I'll entertain a motion then at this time.
I will move, oops, I will move Planning application 13-080 from AT&T Wireless at 520 Cleveland Avenue for design review and conditional use permit.
Is there a second?
I'll second, and this motion should incorporate the amended special conditions that were provided at the meeting tonight, including an additional condition that the diameter of the pole not exceed 3 feet, and if it does, it should come back to the Planning Commission for discussion.
I accept that.
All right, so it's been moved, the motion has been amended and approved and seconded. It's been seconded. All right, so let's call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. All opposed?
Yes, I'm opposed.
You're opposed.
I'm opposed.
One opposed, so 3-1. And Phil, you've raised a very good point, a very good issue, and I think you'll bring that forward when we talk about the wireless ordinance, and also at some point we'll probably want to have a list of all of the other facilities in town and when their use permits expire, so we can warn people that we're going to look more closely at the design of these facilities. All right. Okay, thank you. Your permit has been approved, and there's a 14-day appeal period. But after that, you can come in. You can come in for your building permits and other actions. Okay. Thank you. Great. All right. The next item on tonight's agenda.
Mr. Chair, I note that I am required to recuse myself for both this and the final item on the agenda.
Right.
So I am going to take my leave for the evening.
Well, before you
Okay.
do, is there any discussion that we need, or information need?
Announcements.
Thing.
Measure D committee?
our
Measure
parking-
D committee is Tuesday, March 18th.
Okay.
Tuesday, March 18th. Very good.
We'll have one more commission meeting.
So none on the 5th.
No, we have the UC Village appeal hearing going to City Council next Wednesday, March 5th. And the housing element is going to...
I think on March 3rd, the housing
Housing
element
element.
goes to the council, and then they're doing a special meeting on the 5th
Yes.
for UC Village. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so the next item then is 1145 Stannage is the first one we'll take here. So let's have a staff report on that project if we could.
Yes. Before you is a request for a design review, conditional use permit, and parking exception approval for a second-story addition at 1145 Stannage. The subject site is a 4,317 square foot lot with an existing about 1,100 square foot home with 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The home was built in 1949. And it's also located in the Watercourse Overlay District and is the last property in town, right on the Albany-Berkeley border. The applicant is proposing to add a 762 square foot second-story addition, which will include 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a den. The Watercourse Overlay District requires a 20-foot setback from the top of Creek Bank. The existing south wall is 15 feet, 6 inches from that creek center line, so it does not comply with that provision. It's a non-conforming wall. Similarly, the wall on the north side is 2 feet, 3 inches off of the property line, so a conditional use permit is required to extend both of those walls vertically.
So the required setback on the north is 5 feet, or?
In this case, it would be about a 4 foot, a little over 4 feet, 4 feet,
Okay,
3
thank you.
inches. And then from the watercourse overlay, it's 20 feet from the creek center line.
For the south side?
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. 1 off-street parking space is provided in the attached garage. Due to the size that is being requested, an exception is necessary to allow the second space in the front yard. That second space is full-size 8.5 feet in width by 18 feet in length. Doing a little research, the city documents show that the original property owner back in the 40s had applied for a reduction to have an 8-foot side yard setback from the creek. At the time, I gathered in our research, there was a little bit of back and forth, and eventually the setback went to 15 feet, which was compliant with the city engineer at the time of construction in 1949. The home has a cottage-style appearance, which is proposed to remain, and so these are the proposed plans. As you can see, this is the existing face. They're simply, taking the walls straight up. They're replicating this gable detail with the fascia and the diamond. This is existing on the home. It's proposed for the second-story addition, and it will wrap around, as you can see on the left elevation. And similarly on the right elevation as well. As I mentioned, the use permit is necessary to extend both non-conforming walls vertically. So the actual building footprint, the existing footprint is not going to be modified. They're simply building straight up. That concludes the presentation. I'm certainly happy to answer questions you have. Actually, one thing to note, the applicant emailed shortly before the meeting and wanted it noted that he will be using a hardy cement board on the exterior, so this will all be new hardy cement board on the house. Applicant is here and can answer questions for you, and certainly I can as well.
Any questions of staff?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So what we have is a non-conforming side setback. The
Yes.
creek is a non-conforming, legal non-conforming.
The creek and then the north side of the
The
property.
north side is 2 feet 3.
Right, I'm just saying that's non-conforming, but because the city approved the 15 feet, that makes it a legal non-conforming setback. So really, they're not asking for an exception to that.
We're not, in the watercourse overlay provisions, which of course were not in play in 1949, there is a provision in there that allows the commission to reduce the setback requirement. It is existing, so it's a non-conforming wall, but
Right.
I certainly wanted to make you aware of the development standards and the fact that even in present day, there can be a reduction granted through a use permit process.
Okay. Yeah, just in my notes, I remember writing that I would wonder if we should get something in writing from the owner that he understands that the situation and that he will hold the city harmless.
With respect to the
creek.
creek?
Yeah,
Okay.
since it's not meeting our standards.
There is a hold harmless, but we should look at it, though, in the
The hold
resolution.
harmless language that's included in the standard conditions of approval relates specifically to the project approval. It doesn't relate to unique site circumstances.
Has the city engineer looked at this?
We haven't showed it to them.
Okay.
Certainly we will when it goes through the building permit process, but since they are not expanding further into that setback area, we didn't review it
Yeah,
with them.
I had a question. Do you know, it's also about the flooding, kind of similar question. Is the existing house and the floor level of the existing house, which is supposed to not change, is that going to meet the FEMA requirements? And do you know if there's a problem with applying the FEMA requirements here? It looks like it's like 2.5 feet high, and the flood depth is 2 feet, so I wondered if it's, if it is high enough.
Yeah, Jeff actually took a look at the plan set with the actual FEMA guidelines, and we thought that they were probably okay, although we did include a special condition specific to FEMA issue. Special condition 1, applicant shall submit plans at the time of building permit application that demonstrate compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program requirements and Albany Municipal Code flood damage prevention regulations.
Which condition number is that?
It's special condition number 1.
And
Okay, I guess that's when you'll find out. That may or may not be a problem.
Yeah.
If the entire house has to go up another 8 inches or 10 inches, then that would change the design.
It would increase the height, although I believe they would still be
Yeah.
under the 28-foot height limit.
It would still be under the 28-foot height limit, correct? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're at 23 feet 10 inches with the design as proposed, so if they had to go up another 8, it'd still be under.
Yeah.
I thought I remember reading, and I can't find it now, in the staff report, section noting that it would be appropriate for the commission to require mitigations to the project due to the proximity of the creek. And
I know I put mitigation considerations in the next staff report.
Oh, is
but
that what okay.
Yeah, I don't believe I put anything in here with respect to creek maintenance.
Okay.
All right. Are there any other questions of staff? Is the applicant or applicant's representative present? Do you want to come up and? All right. Mhm. Okay, good.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Tom Jan, the architect for 1145 Stannage Avenue. And as you can see, the house is a very small house located at the border of Albany and Berkeley. And there's a creek that you just discussed running along the site on the east side of the house. And it is a very special situation for that because one side of the house is very close to the property line. And it is a small house with only 2 small bedrooms and a living room. And the dining room is just like a hallway. And the owner has lived there for over 10 years. And 15 years, right? Yes. And now it's time for them to improve the house to meet their family needs. So the design is intended to locate the addition within its perimeter after we talking to Anne. And we also, the owner is also in communication with the neighbors and understand their concerns. So we try to locate the addition as far as possible from the adjacent property. And we also want to keep the addition within the perimeter of the existing house. The other intent is also want to break the volume by making the layout L shape, and so keeping the living room low, facing the street, so the upper level is set back further from the street, so it will reduce the impact to the neighbors looking from the street, and also reduce the impact to the view and privacy for the adjacent neighbors. The owner has also proposed to upgrade its exterior quality besides improving the interior by using high-quality Marvin aluminum clad windows, and also intend to use the hardy cement board, which requires lower maintenance and no painting required, and more environmental friendly. And so with the roof, also try to mimic the existing one with the same gable details. So with all this kind of treatment, the owner believe that the property will be greatly improved, not only benefit the improvement of life, and also benefit the whole neighborhood. So we see your approval and support to this project.
Thank you. Any questions for the architect right now?
I just have one. On your plans, you show a a stairway coming out of the house onto the north side of the building. And it appears that, I'd have to guess, it's not dimension, but I would guess it's about 3 feet.
Yes.
But your property line's only 2'2" or 2'3". So is that built over the neighbor's property?
No, actually, it's right at the edge of the property.
Okay, so it's only 2 feet wide stairway?
No, it's a bit more than 2 feet. The nearest is 2'9", and then it tapered.
Oh, okay.
So it's wider at the back.
Wider in the back?
Yeah,
Oh, I
wider at
see.
the back,
Oh, okay.
yes.
Yeah, the property does, but
Right.
your
So
stairs
The
straight.
side yard then needs.
Yeah,
to
the
be
side yard.
tapers. The
They
side
need,
yard
they
tapers.
need that step for putting out the
So
garbage.
that little stairway is there now?
Yes.
And you've just rebuilt it?
Right.
Kind of the way it is now? then?
Right,
Okay.
right, yes.
Even though it's encroaching
Yeah,
onto the
just for
neighbor's
garbage.
property.
It is in the side yard?
That's the only way to take out the garbage.
Yeah,
from
well, I
the
understand
kitchen.
it, I just am concerned that it's over the neighbor's property line.
Right, we'll make sure. And the owner also have the survey done before this application, so the quit location and the property line is also identified.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had a question. In the plans, it shows concrete surfaces on basically all 4 sides of the building. Is that existing, or is
It
that
is.
proposed?
It is. Actually, it's an interesting topic, probably when you discuss the quick ordinance. I think the previous owner, who actually lived across the street still, but he's too old to get involved. So he built this house, so he understands the whole situation, because he built 2 houses.
Yeah.
One across the
I
street.
saw that. So the same siding?
Right. Probably he understands the quits and the flat plane. So he raised the footing all the way to the bottom of the joist. So I think it's a smart move. So we have the skirt of concrete, which is not very usual. Usually right now when you build something, it's just several inches above the grade.
Sure, but I'm talking about the concrete patios and walkways around the edge of the building. I'm just wondering if those are all existing or if those are proposed.
They are existing.
You can see, you can see there's quite a large concrete patio out to the back, and then concrete walkways on both sides, and concrete driveway.
It is existing. It's,
Okay.
yeah, it's done by the surveyor. They identified those
Okay.
walkways.
All right, thank you.
all right. When you were working on this, doing the design, did you research at all the FEMA regulations? And do you know if there's any design considerations that you had to make? Or do you know if the building is going to be high enough above the floodplain level? Have you researched that?
No, unfortunately, I did not. But I have meeting with the staff several times, and then also make some observation about the creek. And currently, the water level is very low. You just see the bottom of the creek.
Yeah.
And then we talk to the neighbors, and also according to the owner who lived there for 15 years. And then the water table is never exceed the top of the bank.
Right.
Yeah.
You could, please, come forward.
The floor, the first floor actually 3 feet above the ground.
Is- Go ahead and the microphone there. Why don't you give your name too, so.
My name is Nathan Chung.
Okay.
I'm the owner of 1145
Great,
Stannage Avenue.
great.
Just to provide the background information about the elevation of the first floor from the real floor is 3 feet.
3 feet,
3
okay.
feet, yeah. So there's crawl space underneath for all the living space.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's encouraging to me, because the flood depth, 100-year map flood depth is 2 feet. I don't know, but I've heard that FEMA says you need to be a foot above. So that would put you at 3 feet, so.
I believe the original builder actually took that into consideration,
Yeah,
when
that's good.
he built it.
Okay.
Yeah, because 3
All
feet.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And when you move forward, if you do here, the city engineer will have to be looking at that very closely.
Yeah, we look forward to to work
And that's
together with the
one of
city.
the required conditions, so.
Sure.
All right. I have another question, I guess, for one or both of you. It looks like on the plans, you're talking about optional siding one way or the other. Now, you had, the one option is the hardy board, I think, and that's sort of your preferred option then?
Right. After talking to several contractors,
Okay.
and then also did some research about the nature of the material, and the owner has made the decision today before the meeting. The hardy board member is integrated integral color is the one to go with
So that's your
textures.
preferred option?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
okay. And you don't happen to have a sample with you, do you?
I do have I have the literature.
Okay, well, that might be helpful. Sure that,
Well, it's probably a good idea
Phil,
you're doing
you're
it since
probably
you're.
very familiar with
I'm
it.
very familiar with it.
yeah.
It's probably a good thing you're doing that because you reduce setback to the property line. That's going to help with your fire rating requirements as opposed to a wood siding, so.
Good, thank you. Yeah.
That is another consideration for using this too.
And you haven't chosen a color yet, huh?
Not yet.
Well, I wouldn't limit yourself to hardy board. You've got,
significant have to choose the color.
you've got other cement material that,
The other reason for that decision is currently those wood shingles is very difficult to maintain,
Okay.
and the paint is peeling.
I can understand that, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, great, thank you. We'll call you back if we have anything else.
Thank you, Chairman.
Great. Is there anyone else in the audience tonight who'd like to address the commission on this project? Don't see anyone. All right, I'll bring it back to the commission, close the public hearing. Commissioners? Would anyone like to start?
Would you like to start, Commissioner Moss?
so sure. I think I can support the design as presented tonight. There's some concerns that I think will be worked out with the building department concerning drainage, because you're not going to be allowed to drain into the creek. And you've got some surfaces here that we'll have to deal with. But I think, in general, I think the exceptions are warranted. I think the parking exception is warranted. I think that the setback exceptions are warranted. I am just concerned that the legal non-conforming 15-foot 6 setback, and given the elevation above the creek, I think that all has to be verified by the city whether they're going to require any type of mitigating measures to be taken for that. I would support, if this floor is below the FEMA level, that one option would be for you to sign an agreement with the city, a hold harmless agreement, with the understanding that if it does flood, you're not going to hold the city responsible for the flooding. I don't see a reason to lift this whole house up if you're 6 inches or a foot below the FEMA 100-year flood. So, in that I think I can, and I do want to say I do appreciate the fact that your extension of the non-conforming wall near your neighbors, don't have any windows sticking out, new windows sticking out that side.
Yeah.
Because that's always a concern with fire-rated windows and such. So the fact that you do not have windows sticking out on that side, there are some on the lower level, those are existing, but you did not incorporate any new windows in the non-conforming wall, so that's great. So I can support the application as presented tonight with those conditions.
Okay.
Okay, well, I think you've done a nice job with the design. I have no issues with the design. My concern are with the use permit. You have two setbacks that are non-conforming to the north and to the south. I'm not so worried, so those require a use permit, correct? Yeah, and I'm not so concerned with the north. But to the south, adjacent to the creek, I am concerned. I don't feel that the design warrants the extra 5 feet in the second story, and I would not be in favor of extending the second story addition to the same line as the first floor. I'm going to propose that be moved back 5 feet so it's conforming to the 20-foot setback as required in this zone. I also am very much concerned with the amount of concrete around the property, especially the large concrete pad out back, because that means that any water hitting there is running off and into the creek, carrying any dirt and any other household items or household spillages that might be on that concrete pad into the creek. I'm not in favor of a house so close to the creek having so much concrete around it. I would rather see that concrete removed and be replaced with gravel or some sort of percolating surface. And finally, I have no problem with the parking exception. So I'm not in favor of approving this project with without a 20-foot setback of the second story addition.
So what I'm hearing is you would prefer to move the study den in front over the existing structure here. Take this, move it over there. Oh, sorry. So you take this den and move it out towards the front, and then you just have right through here. Oops, sorry. You can have a doorway right through there into that room.
Okay, so that is not not being a designer, I'm not able to think that fast, but I was.
So you just take this, move it there, and the stair comes up, and just make a.
So the commissioner has an idea about how you might accomplish having a 20-foot setback. It did seem to me that there were ways to redesign to have the 20-foot setback rather than the 15-foot setback and still get what you need.
I thought
The commissioner, I'm sorry, Chair.
Yeah,
Chair, the applicant wanted to speak to one item. Is that okay?
certainly,
Yeah.
yes.
I just want to actually, it's not a concrete. This is Nathan Chung again. Just correct one statement. It's not a big concrete block at the back. Actually, they are basically tiles, actually laid there. They are not concrete, so they're permeable to water and rainfall. Okay. So it's a big patch. I think the surveyors have put concrete there because the border is concrete. But the whole patch, actually, I think I can show you some photos.
You're saying it's concrete blocks
They're
with
not even they're basically the stone.
paving stones?
Yeah, paving stones, yeah. Okay. Like about 6 inch by 6 inch, so it's not concrete.
And are they mortared in between, or is there sand in between?
They're sand set, so it's permeable to water. Okay. So I hope that can clarify the one issue.
Yeah, that makes me feel better about that, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand that. That's actually becoming a new way to do that, is have the joints with gravel so that it drains through the gravel. But you have to prepare the underside, below that to accept the water. But again, it's filtering the water before it goes into the creek. But I agree, it's not the best solution.
All right. Nick, I'm having trouble. I don't understand your concern. I may have misunderstood the entire deal about the setbacks then. Is there a non-conforming front yard setback?
No, two
It's the
sides.
sides.
It's the south.
2 sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is
And so
the,
you want to,
This one's a 15, this one has a 15-foot.
Yeah.
This has a 2.2
Right.
to 2.7.
right.
yeah, and I'm
You
not.
don't want to extend that wall in the back that's in the 15-foot.
Yeah, I think it would be the side wall. If you'd have to move the the second story addition's southern wall in 5 feet.
Well, I think, but that would put more of the mass of the building closer to that neighbor on the north side, which is really close. And it would, it would
slightly.
shade them some, so.
Well, there's a
yeah.
garage there, but I think
Yeah.
what I'm hearing, if I can help, or that by extending the wall up on the 15-foot side, 15 and a half foot, you're going to have to work on that foundation. So then you're working close to the creek.
Yeah,
So you're going to have to beef up that foundation. So I
Yeah.
think that's part of the concern is erosions on the creek banks and things like that.
Yeah.
within
Well,
15,
yeah.
20 feet.
I think that that's valid, and I think that there's a reason that we have the 20-foot setback is because creeks are precious resources
Yeah.
that we've misused and
Yeah.
abused
Yeah.
over time by culverting them. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we have a situation where one is daylighted here, that
Mm-hmm.
we need to, the reason where there is a 20-foot setback is to make sure that there isn't too much shadow. There isn't an over, that the creek does breathe, has daylight, really does have daylight, and is not in an alley of tall buildings on either side of it. And that's my concern, and I just don't see where it's warranted to extend the second floor 5 feet to give a use permit for that, when there seems to be other ways to get a little more space out of the second-story addition.
Well, come on up because I have a question for you.
Yeah, I understand what it says, but when we proposed this design, we did take this into consideration, and the reason we propose this is more straightforward. We use the existing foundation and goes up. Another reason is we are talking about the corner basically. It's not the whole wall. Because the ordinance is determined the setback from the center of the creek. So the creek actually is not parallel to the house. It's getting further apart, further away from the house when it goes down to the street. So we are talking about the corner. So we just hope that you could understand this hardship and then allow us to just making the wall straight and is more rational to achieve the goal. The other reason is if you look at the room dimension, we only have 11 feet for that. It's not a big room. So if you're cutting back 5 foot, it's become a very, very small. So, yeah.
Well, he's talking, I think,
Yeah, the
I
bedroom.
think he's talking not about narrowing the room, but about moving it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, no, I wasn't going to,
Make any suggestions?
make
You
any
want to get
suggestions. I
direction.
don't.
I get it. Mhm.
Yeah, you could just reduce the size of that bedroom, or you could do something else. I don't know.
Well, it's not a bedroom,
Okay,
it's
I
a
understand.
study.
I'm looking. I keep getting confused. Let's see, that's the first floor.
One question, I guess, since you came back up, and
Okay.
I forgot to ask this the first time. Have you had any conversations with the Army Corps of Engineers or Fish and Game?
Yes, we do have engineer get involved in this design process, and they inspected the foundation, and then actually the foundation is pretty sound, so it's all concrete all the way up to the bottom of the. But he need to further investigate when he do the working drawings. If it's needed, he will work with the city engineer to achieve the goal. Yeah, and the band is pretty solid. It's very well built. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I have no further questions.
Thank you.
No questions? No further questions? Okay. All right. Where do we stand here? Further thoughts on?
Well, I'm sympathetic to the fact that it is the corner that, in fact, you can see right there, the corner that is the one that is proposed to be, is it 15.5 feet from the center of the creek? So it is the study in the den. It's not a bedroom space that would be reduced if you just left everything as it is. I'm just going to have to, if we leave it as is, I'm going to have to vote no because of the, because I feel strongly about the preservation of creek, what would be the word, of doing the maximum to get the best creek daylighting we can. So, you know, you could choose to just, we could have a 2-to-1 vote here, but I think I can't approve it with the 15-foot setback.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. You may.
Well,
You
yeah,
may.
come on,
We're-
because I got a question about
we're-
the dimensions on the
we're-
side.
Yes, come forward. You may.
Yeah, I understand actually the discussion here, hopefully, you know, that maybe I can explain the situation a little bit better. First of all, I've been living in a house for 15 years, okay? And actually, I have not done anything different, you know, in terms of foundation or anything, you know, to the house, except I tried to make the backyard, you know, put down the stone pavement and all that, you know. And the flood was not a major issue for me, but I understand we have to, you know, conform to the codes, okay? So in our original design, I hope the committee can actually understand that's our position, is that our intention already is not to disturb the present foundation. And we think the easiest way is to move upwards without violating any change, okay, and deviation, you know, from what had been existing since 1949. Okay, that was basically the architect and I, and also with the neighbors, okay, that's also what the neighbors suggest, okay? That just, you know, wrap around it, don't disturb the neighborhood, which had been there for so many years. It was a nice neighborhood, and that's why we don't want to move. But our little daughter is growing up, she needs her space, instead of this 2-bedroom with a dining room kind of little house. Okay, so we try our best to conform to the present foundation without any disturbing, okay? And the major thing is no change to any kind of boundary. Okay, otherwise there are other options that we can go, okay, which may create more problem. For example, if you want to extend at the back or cut back, actually that means the foundation has to be changed.
Yeah, no, well, just to be clear, that's not what I'm saying. I would approve a second-story addition that's 20 feet back with the existing wall 15 feet back, is what I say. There's an existing wall that's 15 feet already from the creek. You're proposing a second story whose exterior wall would also be 15 feet from the creek. And that's what I'm opposed to, is that the second story be also 15 feet from the creek. I'm not in favor of that. So I don't think that requires, it might be a little bit of a not as good design, but I don't believe that would require a foundation move. I'm looking at my fellow commissioners who are architects. But it would be that the second story would bump in, and you'd need a little roof or something between the first and second story to shed the water.
It all depends on the foundation, because you're still putting more loading on that exterior wall, even if it's brought in.
Okay.
Because you're going to have to beam across it. That ends of the beams are going to bear on. So you're going to have to reinforce.
So no matter what they do, they're going to have to redo the foundation, is what you're saying?
I think that they may have to do something to beef up the foundation, but there's other considerations. I don't mean to throw more gasoline on the fire, but when you're doing something like this, you're putting up scaffolding, you've got to put up the siding, so there's going to be stuff that are going to be going to encroach into that 15-foot setback while they're building it.
Yes.
Which could further, that's why I was wondering about the Army Corps of Engineering, if they got involved with, because they control all the drainage watersheds.
Yeah. Well,
So that
but,
was my concern, was,
okay.
I think I'm hearing.
I think we have different concerns, Paul, though I would
The
echo
Army
your
Corps
concern.
is concerned about anything below top of bank, so I think that probably. okay.
That's
but
not
did my
my
fellow
experience
For
in my
something like
projects
that,
with them.
yeah. Well, yeah.
But did my fellow commissioners understand that my opposition is not to the existing exterior
I
southern
do.
wall?
I totally understand that.
But to
You're
the
talking about some
addition.
sort of redesign. I think you're talking about some sort of redesign so that the second floor stays within that 20-foot setback.
Correct.
From the center line of the creek.
Correct.
And so that would mean moving that one, could mean moving that one room that's called a study den toward the front and toward the other north side. Or it could mean narrowing that room, I suppose, or making that room smaller in some way, which would be hard to do because it isn't too big.
This is already a very small 10-foot.
Yes, 11 feet it looks like.
somebody
Yeah.
else
And also,
Yeah.
may I ask a question, how to define 20 feet from which extreme of the perimeter? I think there's something I'm a little bit confused. You say 20 feet from which extreme? Is it mid?
20 feet from the
is
center
that-
line.
Either you want to truncate, which 20 feet from
Yeah,
what?
no, I don't think we were talking about a curved house that follows,
Yeah,
that
so
follows the
I'm a
line.
little bit confused,
I
that's
don't
why
think
I-
we're asking you to build that.
But
We,
how
you know,
do
we
you
don't
define 20
know.
feet from the extreme or?
Yeah,
Well, now that you mention it, a
Well,
curved
you-
house might, it is from the center line, and it's like a setback. You follow the center line of the creek, 20 feet back is your setback. You can't encroach into that.
yeah.
In this case, you have a legal non-conforming setback that was approved with this.
Yeah.
So,
Well, personally, I didn't have a problem with the design, and I did think about it a little bit, and my concern more of having more mass on the north side of the building was that there's only a 2-foot, 6-inch setback there, very narrow, and the neighboring house is close to that fence, so I was worried about having too much mass looking down on the neighboring house if we pulled back farther from the creek. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Nick, and I acknowledge the importance of those daylighted creeks. So, I'd love to see you do more. Do more with landscaping along the edge of the creek, which I think you could do, and make it into even a really wonderful private space for your family.
I would like to invite the commission members to visit my house,
Yeah.
right? And actually, we try our best to make it a very nice, like, house, just to, but on the other hand, I think, it's because of this exception, I think that, we are saying that basically we are looking for no change, basically. I think that's our design goal.
Yeah, well, the addition, the second floor addition does make the mass of the house greater, and so it does impose upon the creek more, is my opinion. So we could go two ways. We could, if you're interested in redesigning, we could ask you to come back, or we could just take a vote, and it could very well be that your project passes anyway with a 2-to-1 vote. So I don't know what my fellow commissioners think.
Well, we would love to work together with the city, okay? For example, for the foundation, I think we can conform to, whatever the condition, the city is going to give us on the foundation because of the extraordinary situation because it's next to the creek,
Yeah.
okay? For example.
Yeah, we're not talking about moving or changing the foundation. We're not talking about moving or changing the lower floor. I mean, if you need to make the foundation stronger to support the second story, that's separate, but we're talking about moving only some of the mass or some of the rooms on the upper floor, the second floor. That's the concern we have. All right, I don't know.
well, this,
should
let me
we-
throw this out there real
Well,
quick, because
yeah.
I'm gonna make one last dish.
Okay,
By bringing your second story out towards the creek, you're going to be working on that side. It's going to be more expensive for silk filtration screens and other types of systems you're going to have to put in during construction and possibly permanently. So the cost is going to be more to build it out there than it would be to build it out the other side of the house, where you're away from the creek, so you don't have to do these certain types of silk fences and such. So I could go either way with this, but I want you to be fully armed with, you can have your extra den study bedroom upstairs that we're talking about. It would just be moved to the north side of the house rather than on the, west side of the house rather than the east side of the house. What I normally would assume is north in Albany is not always north. You know, it's, you can tell us, no, I want to go forward with this and get a vote, or you could say, I would like to take, and we could bring this back at the next meeting and say, let me take another look at it. Sure. I'm sorry, chair should say sure.
That's good, go ahead.
Okay.
No, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
I'm
thank you
powerless.
so much to be so thoughtful about the creek, and that's something that we also want to improve too. Actually, the owner already improved it by trimming down those overgrown vegetations and before the design. And as I mentioned earlier, the house is very stable with very strong foundation built. And so I still believe that the concept to probably follow the perimeter is a better way. And if I can think of something, maybe we could push it back and then, but compensate the area lost by cantilever towards the back. Would that be something approvable with conditional approval, so that the owner wants to proceed with the project as fast as possible? Because I understand you guys have a very busy schedule. We've been waiting for about 2 months for this hearing, so.
I believe that's something we would do by approving, but instructing staff to reevaluate by allowing staff to reevaluate or to evaluate the redesign. That's one way we could do that, I suppose, but I'm not sure.
I just want to make sure that we're clear. So it would be a conditional approval where you would basically be doing a redesign of the rear and allocate that space to the back of the house and have the 5-foot setback on the creek side?
Yeah, so we could, can we have the
site plan?
the site plan?
It's likely to be enough of a change so that we probably ought to,
Yeah.
Continue it and then bring it back, maybe on consent calendar at the next meeting or as soon as the work could be done.
This question for the applicant. Timing-wise, do you think you would have revisions prepared within a week or so? Or?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
And this gentleman out here raised his hand once.
Yeah.
So did you want to say something on this?
Is this about this item? Yes. All right, I guess so. I'll reopen, you better come up, I have to reopen the public hearing and then come up, please.
Just a quick statement, I care about the creek too, but the creek's run east-west, so it won't, the sun, it's not gonna impact the sun during the day that hits the creek. And I also want to point out that if you do move it over or you cut off a corner, you're making the house slightly weaker for earthquake stuff. If it's right over the bearing wall versus it's sitting in the middle of the house, it's
Yeah.
going to make a real difference, so.
Actually, believe it or not, the creek runs north-south right there,
Does it really?
according to his north arrow.
Is that right? Well, it is curved, yeah, it could be, so on the north.
Well, thank you
yeah.
for your comment.
Okay,
Actually,
that's
yeah,
good.
the
Yeah.
creek is located southeast, so a lot of sun exposure. So
Yeah,
there's no sun cast over the creek.
Yeah.
So that's why the vegetation grows very fast.
Yeah.
So over the years, it's overgrown, actually.
Well,
Uh,
it is,
well,
in fact,
so-
yeah.
Sorry, our next meeting is when again?
2 weeks from tonight, it is Wednesday, March 12th.
Okay, 2 weeks from tonight. So that's, that would be 2 weeks to wait. I think something like this, if we're going to redesign, probably, I agree with the chair, would be prudent to bring it back here. And we could deal with it quickly as a consent calendar item.
I hope so.
Do you have enough clarification of what we've been rambling about tonight?
Yes, I'll just summarize briefly as I understand it. The commission would continue the matter to a date certain pending a redesign by the applicant to have that south wall have a 20-foot setback for the second story, but that same space that would be reduced could be reallocated on the back, and the back would have to be redesigned.
Reallocated
On the north or
on
the east
On
side.
the other side, could easily be reallocated to there, or potentially to the back. He was talking about a cantilever. I don't know structurally if that's a good idea or not, but.
You're still, cantilevers are going to require some type of structure
A
below it
foundation
just to
again,
cantilever it
and-
out, so.
I think that the architect would have to put some real
Yeah.
thought into it.
The other thing is, if you could do it for us, you have some extra lines here on this creek that I'm not sure if they're top of bank. They're dashed and they don't really.
I agree, it is hard to read.
So, because if I read this, the 15.6 feet would be to the property line, not the flow line. Yeah, but I can't see that one as
Yeah,
much
that's
as I can see.
property line.
I'm assuming that where the end of the word concrete culvert is right where the daylights. So maybe you can add where the creek daylights, where it doesn't daylight, or, you know, I'm.
Now, what is FL on your map?
Flow line,
Flow line? Is that the center line of the creek?
that's supposed to be. But there's, beyond that, towards the house, there's a dash line that does some funny things around where it says Albany city limits.
Right.
You see that dash line?
That, yeah, let's see.
Okay, now point.
Point
You
again,
see the
dotted
fence?
line?
No, you see the fence?
No.
You see your fence line? Concrete line next to the house? Go left, 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 even further
Yeah,
left.
what's that line right there? Right there, what is that line?
Yeah,
Oh, this is where the fence is, the railway fence is.
Oh, yeah,
dash line
okay,
next to it.
Okay,
What's the,
Poles and then just wood
right.
fence.
yeah, what's the dash line next to it?
This line,
Yeah,
there's nothing good. I don't know what the surveyor put there, they put up a surveyor.
and now follow that up, you see where it goes north, or goes up? Keep going up,
Yeah, going east.
keep going up. Keep going up, you see how that overlaps, kind of funny? We're not quite, no, you had it right there. Those two dash lines kind of do this. Yeah, I don't know what those lines are for.
I don't know, there was some surveyor.
I don't know if that could be,
That was from the survey map.
Yeah.
yeah, but it could be it could be the top of bank is what I'm asking.
That's not. The top of bank is actually the fence.
Well,
Yeah.
okay,
That's I'm sure, because when they try to replace the fence,
yeah,
that's exactly where the top of bank is.
but that looks like the top of bank then angles away from the
Yeah,
fence.
it makes an angle, you see, it makes an angle.
Yeah,
I think
I know the fence, but I don't know what the dash line
I think
is.
that's top of
I
bank.
don't know either, this from the surveyor.
So maybe you can ask the surveyor what it means. Because,
Can you point at the line again? I actually have the survey here. I'm trying to,
Oh, okay.
you want to send it over here?
I'll just send it down. That'll be easier.
Because I'm,
Top of bank, I think it's top of bank.
I think it is top of bank. Thank you. Fence, concrete. Yep, it's top of bank.
That's top of bank line. Yeah, okay.
And then the other one in the culvert entry, good. That's probably where that means that's about.
Well, so already, you might be less than 15 feet from the top of bank.
Correct. Because the setbacks are from center line.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but the overlay district requires a 20-foot setback from the top of the creek bank. So,
If it were being built today, yeah.
yeah, so, so it might be, it would actually be more than 5 feet to bring it back 20 feet from the top of the bank. But let's see, let me see what the dimension is.
correct. Yeah.
When we talk about 20 feet, there will be like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more than that, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I didn't quite realize that you're already very close to the top of the
Right.
bank.
Correct.
Half the house will be gone.
Well, I still would like to see the second story stepped back then. I mean, even more so, now that I know it's even closer to the creek than I thought. So that would still be my preference.
Well, do I hear that you're willing to take another look at this? I'm sorry, I'm summarizing. Go ahead.
I think that's what we do here, yeah. But they are, if we move to continue, you're willing to take another look at that and to redesign the second floor so that it'll move the mass of it toward the other side of the house and farther away from the creek. Is that right?
Okay, so I just continue this
Oops.
That's one option. The other option is to bring the mass on the other side of that, over the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah, over the
Put,
kitchen.
Put
or
the,
over the back, or
Yeah.
over the kitchen.
move your study den so to where it's over your kitchen. And that would.
That's another option.
require, that'd be an option, require redesign of the roof plan. It completely change the floor plan.
Well, it doesn't change that.
So it will impose to the
Right.
adjacent neighbor more.
Yeah,
Right.
Correct.
If you look
That's
at the
it.
other plan, you see where you,
yeah,
Something,
Yes.
you already consult the neighbor, and this already is to minimize the impact on the sunlight,
Well, it was just a suggestion, so maybe
Yeah, I
maybe
understand,
moving to
yeah.
the back is
Yeah,
better.
if you move that thing to over the kitchen area, this one of the original design, but then we consult the neighbor, and she said, oh, maybe it's good to just make sure that she gets enough sunlight to her house,
Yeah.
because her house is right next to.
We appreciate your consideration of the neighbors.
We agree, and then we
Yeah.
consult the neighbor, and then it makes it not intrusive, and then we say, look, do we stay or do the original foundation? So we are trying our best to be very part of the.
We appreciate that.
and a quick shadow study would show that you don't shadow her property when you put it where we were just talking about. Because the sun rises in the east, yeah, she's going to lose some early morning sun, but by 10 or 11 o'clock, the sun's going to be more south, which will bring it right between your two houses.
yeah.
Well, the neighbor was concerned, and so they've
That's,
dealt with the concerns of the neighbors. So I think it looks like towards the back is the way to go, if they're going to expand that way. But we'll leave it to the
I'm not
architect.
sure.
I think you have our concerns, and I think that
Yeah.
when you start building, if you were going to build on that south, on the wall towards the creek, you're going to be a lot closer to that creek than you realize.
We understand that situation at the beginning, but we talked to the staff to try to see this conditional approval because it is on the top. And then the lower floor is already existing.
Correct.
And then, so I think the impact is pretty minimum according to my professional judgment. So that's why I just hope that you can approve as is right now. And yeah, and then doing the back, and then actually it will impact the backyard more, and also the neighbors' backyard. They have vegetable gardens, and then probably they will come up with some objections to. And we have a huge redwood tree there, provide a lot of shade. So,
Well, I'm going to make a motion.
Okay?
I'll move that we continue to a date certain, planning application 13-090, 1145 Stannage Avenue, design review, conditional use permit, and parking exception. And the date certain being the meeting of
March 12th?
March 12th.
If they can get the work done by then, that's fine. Is there a second on the motion?
I'm going to second it, but I want you to be clear that kind of what we have in front of us is not clear to us on the drawings, so I think that you need to clean up the drawings a little bit to show us where top of banks are and the actual setbacks are, if you want to go forward with the design you have, to clarify it, because there's just no dimensions to where the top of bank is, where, you know, nothing to the flow line. There's nothing labeled, so we don't know what everything is. So I would strongly suggest.
Concur.
I want to clarify, is this requirement from the top of the bank or the center of the creek? So as far as I understand, Bob, is from the center of the creek, right?
No, the requirement's from the top of the bank, so it seems like you'd have to move in order to comply with let's be clear about this. In order to comply with the 20 feet, the second story would have to be quite a ways back. Knowing that.
If that's the case, the whole second story is not
right.
realistic.
Knowing that.
So that's why I see this kind of hardship approval.
Understood. Knowing that, I would say that I could approve this project if you took some care to step back in 5 or 10 feet and move from the creek and maybe moved out to the back. That would satisfy me. That would allow me to approve the project.
That's just, you're talking about the second floor.
And only the second floor.
Only the second floor. We're not asking for any changes in the footprint of the first floor.
Yeah, if it's a new
And
built
But I
house.
think we are asking for a redesign that pulls that portion of the second floor that's closest to the creek farther from the creek.
Okay, can we?
20 feet
can
is
we
not a magic number here. We recognize that's not really feasible.
Can we make it a little bit straightforward, so in case, because I need to work on that. So it's approvable if we cut it back along this line?
That would be acceptable to me. It seems like that would be.
To have a setback on that, okay.
Right.
Yeah, I think he's.
And then we have this part as a roof, and then
Yeah. So just
3 feet to compensate some.
Right.
loss
To be clear.
Yeah. So we can extend the whole thing.
Yes, yes, you have lots of, I think you have plenty of room in the back.
Yeah.
You know, the fun thing about this for you
You do,
is
you
that
have-
two
you have-
commissioners, one recused and the other commissioner is not here. She may have a
Very
different
unusual
opinion.
situation.
So,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that
Right.
personally, if that's the direction you would go in, I can support it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm clear now.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
all right. Okay,
So we have a
so
motion
we
and
have
a
a
second.
motion, I think, and we have a second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, all right.
And do
So
you
we-
understand what the discussion was just
Continue your
now?
item.
About he's going to
Yeah, he's going to redesign.
cut it back to that line and then
Gonna
extend it out the
existing.
back. And he's either going to cantilever or build a wall out there.
Okay.
To carry that load, so, okay.
All right,
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much for your patience. Okay, the next item on our agenda is 1111 Cornell. So do we have a staff report on that, Ann?
The applicant is seeking design review approval for a two-level addition at 1111 Cornell. The subject lot is a is 5,000 square feet with an existing home that is 959 square feet in area with 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The home was built in 1915. The applicant is proposing the addition at the rear, which will be 2 levels. The upper level will include a new family room, master suite, and deck. The upper level altogether is proposed to be just under 400 square feet. The lower level is proposed to include a new secondary dwelling unit that will be 643 square feet. And there were some revised plans that were at the back table. I left hard copies for the commission on the dais, and I thought we could kind of walk through this quickly. For your review this evening, this is a study session, so you will not be expected to take action, but instead provide feedback to the applicant. So the way the floor plan is now, on the left, we have the upper floor plan, which is largely this area that is being added. Family room is here. The previous plans, there was a deck that was shown to be on the side. It has since been shown to be relocated to the rear and reduced quite a bit in size. The lower level floor plan contains the second unit, which will be served by its own separately accessible parking space. It will be 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. It does fall under the 650 square foot provision at 643. There's also a lower level bedroom and bathroom and laundry that will serve the primary residence upstairs. Also on the lower level is a 2-car tandem garage that will serve the main residence. This house has quite a sordid history from 1990 to the present. It was the subject of numerous code enforcement cases. The first code enforcement case was opened in 1990, and subsequent citations were documented in 2008, 2011, and 2013. In September of 2013, a code enforcement abatement case was opened, and the house was deemed uninhabitable by a building official. At the time, the property owners decided to sell rather than resolve the issues with the home, and so the house sold in November to the current owners who are before you this evening. And to give you an idea of the condition of the home, I included a number of photographs in your staff report. The house is pretty beat up. I don't think there's any way to get around
Deferred
that.
maintenance.
Deferred maintenance, yes. The biggest deferred maintenance are the
Quite
stairs.
a bit deferred.
And you can see the siding coming off here on the side elevation. A closer view also shows that there is vegetation that was actually growing into the house, which caused some of the decline of the building materials. And here you have a rear view, which shows a similar perspective. I have not been in the house. Jeff has been in the house, and what he shared with me is that despite the exterior appearance, the interior of the home is actually in pretty decent shape and is repairable. So the worst of this is in the exterior appearance of the home. The home has a bungalow appearance, as you can tell, with a projecting bay window on the front elevation. The appearance is proposed to largely remain the same. Wood siding is proposed that will, obviously the siding that's existing will have to be replaced, so it will bear resemblance to the architecture that it currently has. There's a hipped roof, which is proposed to remain. To accommodate the lower level ceiling height, currently it's at 6 foot 10 inches, so it's not legal. The applicant has proposed to increase that ceiling height to 8 feet. So the home will be lifted and a new concrete slab will be poured. This will result in a slight height increase. It's currently 24 feet 10 inches. It will increase to 25 feet 11 inches. And I noted there's a deck off the back. The existing floor area ratio is 0.35. With the addition, it will go over 0.5. And as the commission often notes during their review of homes with an FAR that exceeds 0.45, you expect exceptional design, and you look for that when reviewing a project of that size. In the staff report, some suggestions were made as to modifying the building design. Consistent window trim was one thing that was noted. In the staff report, the location of the deck was identified. In the drawings I just showed a moment ago, it's been relocated to the rear. One thing that was suggested is also landscaping details. I know it's very atypical for the commission to get involved in that, but given the excessive amount of vegetation on the site, the fact that it's literally part of the home, we thought it might be a good idea to require some sort of either vegetation management plan for what's existing and any other landscape details to be identified. You also received a letter from a neighbor regarding that particular issue, so that was included in your packet.
2 letters, I believe.
There were 2 letters, I believe, one over the deck and then one relating to the vegetation issue. That concludes the staff report. As I said, you're really here to review this for design feedback this evening, and then the applicant will come back to us at a later date with design revisions. Given the size of the project, the extensive history with code enforcement issues, we thought it best to take it to you so that you could give some preliminary feedback.
Questions of staff?
Yeah, what's the nature of the code enforcement?
Yeah.
Do you know?
I do. Going back to 1990, there was an issue really more related to the occupants and some family issues, but that, of course, resulted in the house not being maintained. There were some unhealthy living conditions. From what I read in the report, in the early 90s, there was a child actually taken out of this environment and put in protective services. So it was kind of a combination of things, you know, the occupants and then the lack of maintenance on the property. I guess at one point there were plumbing issues, and I will leave it at that. Not appropriate for KALB to go into that level of detail.
You said plumbing issues, right?
Plumbing issues, yes. I won't be more specific than that.
Okay.
The plans that you gave us tonight then are sort of updated from the ones that were in the staff report?
Yes,
And,
that's correct.
There's some, well, there are quite a few differences, I think, so.
Yeah, I think that the big difference is the deck has been relocated to the rear yard. That family room has been expanded. So in the previous plans, the side yard setback was shown at about 10 feet 3 inches. It's now actually closer. It's 5 feet 2 inches.
Okay.
It is a 5,000 square foot lot, so a 5-foot side yard setback is the minimum requirement.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay, let's see, anything else?
Yeah, I just want to clarify
staff?
something. That deck, where that deck was on the original design is now a room?
Yes,
Right,
that is the
yeah.
expanded family room.
Now a room.
Okay, so,
I don't think it sticks out quite as far.
I think it does.
I think it does, yeah. All right. Let's see, would the applicant like to come forward, and do you have a presentation to make or anything to talk about on this? Oh, okay.
Thank you again, Chairman. Yeah, it's been my pleasure to work on both of these
Oh, really?
small
Okay.
houses in Albany
Uh-huh.
after I did one in Albany last year, which is turned out quite good. So, yeah, as you saw those pictures, 1111 Cornell Avenue, it's really neat work.
It does.
And, right. But if you travel back to the history, I'm sure that this is a very charming house, and it is actually art and crafts style inside with bay windows and nice foyer, and also cove ceilings. It's very lovely, but also it is a very, very small house. It's only 950 something square foot. All those dimensions are very tiny, and so the new owner decided to improve the house, do the repair, and then bring it back to the charm that it used to be. So also adding something at the back to improve the livability of the house. And by working with the staff, and we found that there's an opportunity to raise up the existing basement, which currently is only 7 foot. It's not a legal height for livable space. So we revised our design to raise it up by 1 foot, so we could create a second unit. So I don't know if that's the city policy in Albany, but the second unit right now is so after way to provide more affordable housing in the urban area. Somehow, Albany is still suburb. But hopefully that would make sense because it will create some kind of living activity on the ground level. So the ground surface will be better maintained, better used. So instead of overgrown vegetation, you have some activities, some nice landscape there, and that's what we plan to do. And so the design intent is to keep the front part of the house as much as possible by adding to the back. And the lot is relatively large in Albany, so we still have pretty spacious side yards and backyards. So, the entrance of the main house and the second unit could be separate on both sides, so they can work out very well. And parking, and we could achieve adequate parking by two tandem parking for the main house and attached single car garage for the second unit. So. And for the exterior, and we want to also mimic the style of the house by extending the roof and keeping the same slope, keeping the same material. So you could see that it's more integrated. For the exterior material use, we might also propose to use the hardy cement board because more we look at the sidings, the more we're concerned about the long-term maintenance of the house. So on the updated plans, we changed the use of the exterior materials. So we believe by doing all this improvement, this house will be back to its formal charm and will greatly improve the neighborhood. So actually, we also talked to some neighbors and some passerbys. They're all very excited to see something changing positively. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any questions for the architect?
Can you bring up the north elevation for me? Thanks. Okay. Over the stairway in the back, right behind you, over the stairway, you got a small roof line above the window.
Right there?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what that is, because it's not on their drawings, and I don't see a reason to have that.
Yeah, there was a mistake. It was probably from the past version, so it didn't got erased.
Okay.
The other question I had is the stairs out on the front. You've got the stepped railing, but it seems like, if I'm reading this right, the bottom, the one as you come out the door, is at the same level as the floor, so you need something above that, I guess, too.
Oh, the first step.
Yeah, there should be another step in your,
Looks that way.
I guess, I don't know what your plans are, but you see what I'm talking about? You've got the step of the stair, and then all of a sudden it's at the bottom of the floor.
Yeah.
The reason I brought this up is, I'm concerned about the way that entry porch looks or works. So
that's the way it was right now.
That's the way it is now.
Yeah, and then we can have a handrail on the side.
On that same drawing, that you have different, are you proposing different kinds of siding on the top and the bottom?
It is the way it is right now.
A variation on
Yeah,
that?
some variations.
I don't
So
remember
it's a
that.
wider on the bottom and then narrow on the top.
Oh, okay, I missed that. All right.
Yeah, that's kind of standard for some of these. Okay, I had no more questions.
Any other questions? No? All right, we may have some more later.
thank
Good,
you.
Thank you.
I
Is there-
have 2 speaker cards.
2 speaker cards.
2 speaker
Okay.
cards, yes.
Wow,
Let's
those are big
call them
speaker
out.
cards.
Aaron Levin and Sarah Levin.
Hi, I'm Aaron Levin. I'm the owner of the property adjacent to the north, 1107 Cornell. First, I want to thank the committee as well as the applicants because this property needs a lot of work, and we are happy to that someone has bought it and is going to improve it. With that said, we just want the same consideration shown to us as many of the other issues we've discussed tonight, whether it's another house or a telephone pole or a creek. These considerations are privacy, sunlight, this and that. We have a 1,112 square foot house, very typical of Albany. This plan is proposing a 150% increase. I agree, this house started very charming. 150% increase for over 50% of the lot in Albany, I'm not sure how charming that is. We are an urban village. This is much less of a village house. It will dwarf my house. It will block the sunlight. I really appreciate that moving the deck to the back in response to my letter. However, really, they've just filled in the area where the deck is, moved the deck to the back. They've increased the size of the lot. It's also pretty clear to me from this design, it was thrown together rather quickly and has lots of changes. So I really haven't been given a fair chance to review it, but I will. My concerns with the vegetation are very clear. I've said them, but I want to stay with the ivy. It's not just simple landscaping. This ivy is destroying my property. It has destroyed the fence. It is impossible for me to get rid of without trespassing. Also, overhanging trees. The trees have damaged my roof, damaged my gutter. I've spent thousands of dollars for repairs. So I really would like the council to consider this special to get this taken care of. I have a little house. It fits well in Albany. I think this house, it's being built as wide as possible, as high as possible, as big as possible, and I'm concerned with that, and I know I don't have much time left, but I'd really like you guys to take a look at that side where the stairs are, and then look at how much space are between those stairs and my property. I don't believe these pictures are reflective of that space. There's barely any space in that sideway, but they've pushed it all the way out. So, my concerns are that we're building out a house to the maximum allowed by law, actually a little over the maximum, which needs special consideration for over 50%, and that concerns me.
Clarification, you said you live at 1107 Cornell?
That's correct. To the north.
In the drawings we have, it shows 1109 Cornell. That's a mistake? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
You think it's a mistake.
Okay.
Maybe you own the next door neighbor's house.
And the next speaker?
Hi, I'm Sarah Levin. I'm also the owner of 1107 Cornell. And I wanted to reiterate some of the things that my husband said, but add to the fact that this is a neighborhood of very small houses, as most of Albany is. The 2 houses across the street, our neighbors couldn't be here this evening, but those 2 houses are sub 1,000 square foot homes, to my knowledge. And like my husband said, ours is 1,100 square feet. So this really is putting a ginormous house. In addition, in the agenda, it says that the addition is going to be 398 square feet, but the proposed design that is at the back of the room shows nearly 700 square feet, and that really worries me. 400 square feet is I think a normal addition for a master suite, but 700 square feet, even 600 square feet, that seems very incongruous with the neighborhood. I have some other concerns with the double wide driveway, which also doesn't seem like there's a lot of those in Albany, or any of those in Albany, or a very small percentage. And let's see, I think that when you look at the street elevation, you can kind of get a sense of just how imposing this would be in our little neighborhood. Like my husband, I was pleased that the deck was moved back because the deck was a privacy concern for us, but also, like he said, it looks like they've just replaced it with a larger family room, which doesn't help us in terms of light or in terms of privacy. We've already had to put frosting on our windows in our kitchen so that we can still get light, but had privacy from 1111 Cornell. I think that's all that I needed to add, so I won't keep my whole 3 minutes, unless you have any questions.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other speakers like to speak? Okay. Come forward, and Ann, will you speak for your name here? Do you have a card?
I do not have a card.
Ron Weil,
Okay.
WEIL, and I'm 1115 Cornell, which is incorrectly marked as 1113 Cornell on the map.
Okay.
And
1115,
I
that's
have-
next door? Okay.
I also have a size issue. This thing jumped up. It was in a lot of ways from when we first got the card in the mail. So it's that removing the deck but replacing it with a room is, I don't like it. And I'm also a little concerned about having a 2-bedroom unit. It was original plan was a 1-bedroom unit downstairs. I'm really for urban density, but appropriate urban density. And TK, who's my other neighbor, and I both have 1-bedroom units downstairs. There's a huge difference in the type of traffic that creates. 2 bedrooms, you're dealing with the whole family. You're dealing with much more, usually 2 cars. So I would like to see it cut back to 1 bedroom. The other issue is the driveway issue is a big one for me. We have apartments across the street, which we've all grown to know and love, and they're great neighbors, but to have another apartment house driveway on our block in that area really changes the character of the block. I do believe there should be 2 garages underneath the house, but I believe there must be a better way of accessing them by perhaps a 2-foot wider driveway than what exists now and a way to curve in, rather than chopping away. And you do that and you save an extra parking space, because there are now a parking space in front of my house and what was Wally's house. There were 2 parking spaces. It would be good to maintain both of those parking spaces. Right now, my tenant and I only have 1 car between us, but at some point in the future, there's going to be 2, and so that's a consideration. And my final consideration is the siding on the house. I don't know what this means, cement, but looks like wood. I'm really concerned with the appearance of it, and the house has a particular style. It should be sided consistent with that style, and I don't know whether, I can't envision this. You guys know more about that than I do, but do me a favor and protect our visual interests in the neighborhood with your skills, because I don't have them. Because I know there's been some houses built in our block that are really bad, where they pluck up, wood siding that are really ugly. That's not his intention, I know. So, thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's good. Is there anyone else like to speak right now? All right. Then I'll close the public hearing.
Actually, he can respond.
Bring it back.
The applicant can respond to any comments made.
The applicant can respond. Do you have any follow-up comments from what your neighbors have said?
I understand what neighbors concerned, and but as a design professional, I just think that the increase of the height by 1 foot is very minimum, because If you look at the development pattern of this neighborhood, this house was built a lot earlier than the adjacent houses, because at that time it was that kind of house form that was a usable basement. Actually, they use it for workshop. And perhaps there was some habitants for that. So there was some cooking facilities, toilets. So it used to be a unit, but I don't know if it's in the record or not. So, so if you calculate the floor area, and is 911 existing for the basement. So it is already there. And so we are adding just the back. And then the other concern about the setback, and both sides have very generous setback right now. And then the reason we are adding that is this house don't have any family rooms for the family gathering. So the living room is pretty remote from the kitchen and dining, and 2 existing bedrooms are very, very small. And then the bathroom in between is, also very minimum. So we just want to improve the livability of the unit. And the basement is basically a bonus, because at the first proposal, the owner doesn't want to do it, but we will encourage to harvest this space because it's already there. If the neighbor really concerned about the height, we can go under. We could probably take down 1 foot for the living space, but we talked to the city staff, John, about this approach, and he just don't encourage that. He said that you just build yourself a reservoir in case some kind of rain or something, all the water will probably come down, and you have to step down to it. So it will probably decrease the property value for that too. So being said that, I just think that I hope to answer the neighbor's concern for that. The other concern about the view and privacy, this design has already taken every step of the considerations. If you look at the family room right now, there's basically no windows facing them. It's just a high window for the stairs to get some natural light. So also to make the elevation look a little bit more interesting. If the neighbor still concerned about that window for the stair, we could change the orientation of the stair by facing to, let's see, to facing west to the street. So that would probably improve the privacy a little bit, but I don't think it's a really big issue. The reason for the size of this house actually is in proportion with the size of the lot. The other lot on the left is a lot smaller lot. And if you look at the height of this house, is even lower than the house to the right. So, so that's the reason. For vegetation, I can assure that the neighbor will do our best, probably to work together to eliminate all the ivies. I hate ivies too. I think that's what created the problem in the past. And then trim back the trees, and then have nice vegetations and nice landscape to improve the look of it. So yeah, that's something that we are going to do. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. So
a
this is a
question.
study session, so we want to provide guidance and
Yeah, but I
comments.
have a question for staff.
Okay.
The square footage, was it reduced by 220 or 440 square feet because of the garages?
Only 220.
So I would think that it would be more appropriate to go 440 since it's 2 units and we've got 2 garages. which would bring down the FAR.
I don't know that we necessarily have the ability to go beyond that basic 220. I can't recall an instance where we've done that. We usually just allow the 220 one. But I can look into that
For
further.
single family, but I think if not, then I'll
It's
bring
an
it up with the
interesting
Measure
question.
D, because that's,
Interesting question. It would
Yeah.
apply to all projects with secondary residential.
well, it would help encourage secondary residential units, but yeah, that's something, I'm just curious, because I
Yeah.
would think it'd be, since it's 2 units, we require the garage, that we would be reducing it for both, not just the one. In fact,
Certainly, I can look into that and follow up.
I just wanted, that was one of my questions.
Okay, how about some sort of general comments, or who wants to start here on the overall design and provide some guidance or thoughts?
I can start with just a question that's comes from out of nowhere. Does anyone know if we have any suggestions about night sky friendly outdoor lighting?
Yeah, it's required by state law.
Okay.
It's called night sky, and unfortunately, some of the people lately in Albany have been violating that law, like my neighbor, who put in sonotubes with lights in it, and they just like are a beam going up in the night sky.
But this is for, would this be applicable to exterior lighting on a project such as this?
Yes.
Okay,
And it
great.
should be in the conditions of approval,
Yeah,
downcast lighting.
We require downcast lighting.
Yeah, it must be
Excellent.
shaded and downcast, yeah.
There's only so much
Yeah.
bleed over of the light. you
And
can
Okay.
have.
why are you asking that?
The reason I asked that is because I did see in the plan some sort of traditional light fixtures on each side of the garage, I believe, which
Oh, okay.
don't necessarily, it can be designed as night sky compliant, but sometimes are not. So
Okay.
that'd just be a consideration for the architect, which they're in the conditions of the approval. So moving on to more substantive matters, just
Yeah.
so the people who came and commented know that this is a study session. We won't be taking any action tonight, which is good for you. So, and which also makes me less concerned that there were changes at the last minute, although now you have to respond to them in the last minute. But there will be, this will come up at least one more meeting, and if there are, if we're to take action on anything, last minute changes such as these would not be appropriate and would have to be continued to the next meeting. So, but since this is a study session, we can kind of let that pass. Although it's not as a practice that great either. So it does seem like I'm going to let my fellow commissioners talk more about the design, the exterior design, and whether or not it meets guidelines of really good design. I'm not sure. I can't tell by the drawings that I have whether or not it would look good or not with the different heights of siding on the different sections of the house. I don't know how that would look. So I'd like them to speak on that when the time comes. It does look like in order to gain the interior space that they want, they would either have to go out, since they've gone out to the back, they either have to go out to the left or to the right, and they've chosen to go out to the left, to the north. I do appreciate that the architect has not put windows on that side for privacy concerns, except for the window in the stairwell, as noted, and it sounds like the architect is willing to put that on facing front instead of facing to the side. That would make that even more private. It seems like you could even add a few windows on that side if they were clear story windows or just very high placed windows, so that you could not look into the neighbors. So I think that's good consideration of the neighbors. So again, they have to bump out to the left or to the right, and they've chosen to go out to that side. if it's within the setbacks, there's not much we can say about that except to address the privacy concerns. So, as far as the driveway goes, I do like the idea of making the driveway less wide somehow, but not for allowing for more parking on the street. Actually, I don't like that consequence, but for allowing more green space in the yard. If somehow the entrance to the driveway could be narrowed such that when you turned in, you'd have to turn a little to the left for one garage or a little to the right for the other garage, I think that would be a nice little design change rather than the large footprint of concrete that the two garages will require now. I think the cement board siding, and my fellow commissioners might talk more about this, is kind of a standard practice these days, and that it can look very decent, and it's long-lasting and will, as far as I know, keep its appearance longer and need less upkeep, and therefore, and as long as it looks decent, which I believe it does, it's actually a good product to use in this case.
And it's a green product.
And it's a green product. So I don't have an issue with that. And I think that just my last comment is that it is, they are increasing the mass, but they're increasing the height only by 1 foot, and they are increasing the mass out to one side and to the back. And it might not be as in character with the other houses in the neighborhood as they want, but I think they're making good use of the site and of the existing footprint of the house. So I'm not sure I could be too opposed to the additional square footage of the house. And that'll be my final comment, and I'd love the other commissioners to speak more as to the design and other aspects.
Since you're chair, I guess I go next.
Do you want to go, or?
Sure.
As the architect, you could follow, wrap it up.
Yeah, one of the issues I think that is outstanding for me is that the original house had overhangs, and you're not having any overhangs on your house, so it makes it look fairly boxy. So I would like you to take another look at those overhangs, because I think that's one of the things that makes this style house attractive.
Sorry, where's there only is one in the back, right?
No, the overhang of the roofs.
Oh,
If you
okay.
look at the original, they have overhangs.
Right.
And so,
I think that would be more attractive, a little bit.
on the front,
Well, not much there.
on the front, it does have overhangs.
Yeah,
Let's see.
just on the front.
But see, where it bayed out, then it's
Yeah.
flush.
Oh, yeah, that's
So the overhangs give it a nice feel, and I think it's going to help. And the same with my issue was with the entry porch, not really being a porch, it's just an entry. I think that one of our requirements is an entry, some type of porch on our design review guidelines here. It's a little harder to do, so I think you need to look at that entry cover as something special that's going to have to make up for not having a porch. So I think that's something that's really going to need to be studied quite. Well, it's not a
Design
very,
review guidelines call for a sort of a porch in the front yard, and this is on the side, really. So,
actually,
so you need to do something. I totally agree I had the same comment.
Okay.
I think,
what you have now is a fairly small porch. We're talking about a place where you can put chairs down. It has to do with relating to the street.
yeah,
Where the entry's on the side is a little bit harder to relate to the street with a larger porch. So you've got a smaller porch, but I think you've got to make that pop a little bit more, whether you bring the overhang out further, something, that needs to be detailed, because that's the focal point of the entry of the house, and I think that's going to be important.
Okay. We just want to preserve what it is there. So we could, go extra step to elaborate that.
Right, right. I know this, you haven't really got into the details of this, and that's why I'm kind of throwing out some of these ideas about details. The other thing is, and by the way, hardy board, hardy panel, if you go up and you hit it with a screwdriver, you can tell it's not wood, but it really, from 3 or 4 feet away, you can't tell the difference. But that said, in this case, and they do make different sizes, but in this case, Hardy also makes a shingle, which could be an excellent base for this building, the shingle and then the board. So I'd encourage you to look at that because it's very attractive on these style houses to have the shingle bottom and the wood top. And again, it's hardy, the cost's the same, goes up actually easier than the siding does, and it gives a nice definition of the two. Some other board members would not agree with that, but I think it's, you see it around Albany and Berkeley a lot in this age house where they had the shingle bottoms and the wood or stucco top.
Right.
And it's very attractive. The issue for me is that pop out. I would really love to see you switch that window from the side of the stairs to the front, because when you see this thing from the street, all you're seeing are blank walls back there. So I think that a nice window would help with that facade, and it also gives the neighbors some privacy. And by the way, part of the conditions of approving this is going to be to clean out the ivy and clean out the dead trees. So that's going to be a have-to-do thing when they start working on this. So, yeah, it's... Oh, well, again, part of the approving this is we can ask that you cooperate with the new owner, which I'm sure they're going to put up a fence, a new fence, that you cooperate with them to put it up. But I didn't see a survey on this. I don't know if you're going to get a survey on this, but if you do, then you're going to be able to spot the property lines dead on, rather than arguing that the fence is 6 inches on my side or 6 inches on your side. So I would think that because of the quality and what you're doing here, I believe you're the owner? Oh, yeah. You're the owner's rep as being a broker? No, you're not. You're the buying agent. I know who the selling agent was.
Okay.
Yes.
It's owned by the same LLC.
Right. But, you know, they're going to want to do a nice job here, so they're going to incorporate, I believe, knowing the architect, some type of design on the fence that goes with the house that's going to be nice. I mean, you're going to make this a nice-looking, finished-off product, I'm sure.
Let's hope so. That's good.
We can talk more about the fence, but when it's I did not own my property.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be part
I'm not that concerned, because once they're out there working, putting up a fence is pretty cheap. If you have to do it from scratch, it's a little bit harder. So I'm sure that they're, yeah. Well, you're the one that brought it up.
Okay.
I wasn't even thinking that. You brought it up.
Yeah, all right.
Let me,
Go ahead. Come on, let's go. Let's keep the conversation going. No.
yeah. Okay, that's an argument you guys can have later at the next meeting. I'm just trying to get.
And let's keep it going, Phil.
So,
Make your comments.
I do find that, okay, I'm going to say this. It appears that the enclosing where the deck was on the side and the downstairs was kind of quickly done and still needs to be worked out. Because all of a sudden now you've got another bedroom and another bathroom down there and a laundry room. You had a laundry room before, now you've added a bedroom, a stair, and some other stuff. So, but I want to leave you with this. I think that it's, in some senses, I know it's a big house. I know it's but they're bringing in a secondary residential unit, which is a big plus. The other big plus is they've got parking for it. We really appreciate that. We want this type of extension of a second unit there. But as said, I think that there's a couple areas that you still need to work on, and I think one is, it's precious in Albany, our street parking. So what I'd like you to task you to go back and take a look at narrowing the driveway in a way that we can keep the street parking, even though it's there. I understand that it's not something, I don't want to take street parking away to make a double wide driveway here. So I would like you to try to work it so you can get the access to your garages without losing any street parking, because that's important to the neighbors, because in Albany, it's very tight, especially in this area, for parking. So I think it'll add some nice features to the front, more landscaping possibilities and such. And I think the other comment I had on this was a concern over, and I can't find it, I might be making a silly statement here, but I think the issue with the entrance to the second unit, the downstairs unit, it was just a door on a wall. And I think that needs a roof over it, or some type of articulation over it. So you're just not it's protected entry. You get that sense, it's there. It's not something you just have a door like you're going into a basement. So yeah. Okay, from the drawing, I didn't see the overhang. Okay, I don't know if it was on the elevations or not. I didn't see it on the elevations. So it wasn't on the elevation, so I have to assume either it's not part of it. Oh, there it is. There it is. It's a little, well, okay, work on that too. It's a little triangular shingle thing that doesn't really reflect anywhere into the nice design. You might want to raise it and keep the board coming actually around it and around. So incorporate that roof more into the design. But again, I want to leave you with the idea that I think it's got very nice intentions. I think with a little bit of cleanup, it'll be a very nice design. I think it's good for the city, and I think with these couple of changes or my comments, of course, they're going to look great if, they're my comments. But I think that, I think it would be really helpful to make this a very attractive building. And I do think that getting this thing cleaned up is going to be a big plus to the street. And raising it a foot or 16 inches is not going to be as big of an impact. But I think one of the more important things is cleaning up the lot. And frankly, you don't have to wait. You could do that now. And it would be a big plus when you come back to us, is that you've already shown us that you're going to cooperate like that. It was a lot better than it was. Funny story, I did one of these in San Francisco, and I walked in and there was a tree growing through the middle of the floor in the living room. So yeah, they're fun little projects. You never know what you're going to find in them. But again, I like where you started. I think that, you have the bay window in the front. You may want to, instead of putting side lights, you may want to put down lights on those. And it's very attractive to light the walls rather than light the sky. So, but again, I think that it's a very nice start, and I really support the project.
Okay, all right. I echo some of the same things that have been already said. I'm really, really happy that you're taking on this project. I'm glad that we're getting rid of this red tag property and having it refurbished. I applaud you for that. Really happy that you're investing the capital into the city and into that project. I'm also happy to see you go with the idea of a secondary residential unit, and I support going up and making that space underneath, and I really think it's completely in line with our goals to have more secondary residential units, and it'll be good for you, and you won't have any trouble renting it out. It'll be a good investment, appropriate for the property. Like Phil, I'm thrilled that you can get the required parking off the street and in the garages, that you've done that. So some of my concerns, the first and biggest one I have is basically the front of the building. How does the front present itself to the neighborhood and to the street? And I think Phil's comments about the overhangs would really improve it. I hadn't seen that until he brought it up, and I think it would be a good thing. The two garages are going to be there. They're going to be dominant. I think that's unfortunate. And I'm glad you have the bay window. I think some improvements to that with additional side lights and lighting would be good. I would really like to see that spiffed up. You do not have the entrance to the house in the front of the house like we ask for, we suggest in our design guidelines. And the existing house doesn't have that. It's built with an entrance sort of off to the side. Do everything you can to make that entrance look prominent, look inviting, and look good. And I also think that you do need to do the same with the entrance to the secondary residential unit on the side. It should be visible, and I think you have an overhang shown on the plans. Show that on the elevations, and that'll help guide people, let people know that's an entrance to the building. Your original plans called for like a one-bedroom secondary residential unit. You've now expanded that, added an extra bedroom. I'm not sure that's necessary. I don't know where to come down on that. I don't think that the project is too big for the lot, and probably I could go along with that. You have a wide lot, you exceed what are common setbacks throughout the city on most of our lots by having approximately 10 feet on both sides. So I don't have a way of saying, a good way of saying, no, it is too big. So I guess I won't go there. But let's see. I'm not sure that you would need to have the second bedroom in the secondary residential unit and go all that way. If it were a one-bedroom unit, I'd be happy with it. Also, the secondary residential unit, I think it needs to be designed to have really good light and really good openness. Probably more windows than you show, or and more of a sort of private open space, perhaps in the back or perhaps along the side entry for those people. I think that could improve it. Keep it from being a dark and cave-like space. And if you could do some things by working at the back and maybe even not having that second bedroom, but doing some things with having them have a little sun porch or a sun area, or do some amenities to make that secondary residential nicer rather than bigger, I'd be happy with that. Okay. Let's see. When you reach the FAR that you're reaching, and that's part of what's going on here, I think you're over 0.45. You're with this set of plans with the new rooms, you're at 0.51. We sort of call for a higher level of quality and of design. None of us have mentioned some things. We mentioned a few things that might add to that. Specialized lighting, high quality bay windows in the front, adding the overhangs, and maybe some other touches. One thing that I would love to see, it's not required, but I'd love to see it, and I would give you credit as part of the high-quality design, would be to come back to us with a landscape plan in here as one of your sheets. We normally don't ask for those, but I'm of the opinion that good landscaping can do an amazing amount to improve the street view of a home, the livability of a home, and the usability of the backyard. Since you folks are investing a whole lot of money in this right now, I think that you should bring on a landscape architect have them look at the opportunities and the detriments here, not necessarily cut down all the trees and start over, but this would be, I think you could really improve the design with some good landscape architecture here. Help with the design of the fence, help with the design of the walkways, help with, they may come up with some suggestions for some little gardening pockets at the entrance to the driveway, so the driveway is more, doesn't look quite so wide and so concrete. There may be a lot of things that can be done here to improve the street view and improve the livability of secondary residential unit and the backyard with good landscaping. To me, it would be important. I agree with the other commissioners' comments about the driveway, and I would like to see the street parking preserved if possible. And I'm hoping the city Public Works would go along with that, the city engineer would go along with that. You can design a driveway so that you can widen it, but not so much that you lose one of this the existing curb. That would be a great goal. Okay, I think that is those complete my notes. That covers my notes and that covers my comments. So, unless there's anything else, there is.
Yeah, I
Nick?
just wanted to, I had forgotten, and this kind of echoes some of the other commissioners' comments to about cleaning up the yard sooner than later. You said you've already done that, but to the extent you can entirely eliminate all the ivy sooner than later, this commissioner would look very favorably on that, because I'm well aware of how fast and nastily that grows. So yeah,
me too.
and just have a nice weekend
Me too.
work party and just rip it all out, get it all.
We
Get a
have-
chainsaw if
we-
you need to.
We have eliminated our ivy, but it took a few years, more than a few years, and birds still bring it back.
You gotta commit to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's gonna
it requires a
get her
commitment.
done.
Yeah, it does, yeah. All right, anything else for this applicant?
Do you have any questions
Okay.
for us?
Yeah, any questions for us? And any clarity we can help provide?
Yeah, thank you for your comments and direction to go. And one thing I want to clarify is so-called 2 bedrooms. Actually, one is more like an office, because I think for a single or a couple, it's
Okay.
better to have some extra room.
Okay.
Because if you can see, the living room is very small with the kitchen there and eating there, so it's good to have
Okay.
something. Yeah.
That would be fine, and.
So it's
and-
under
Yeah,
650.
you labeled
the
it,
city's
you labeled
guideline.
it bedroom,
Okay.
and I like the idea of an office integrated into the,
Probably office.
but,
yeah.
and it need not be quite as big, I don't think. You have to,
Right.
I think you got my comment.
And, yeah,
if it's a
and then
closet,
for
it's
the
a bedroom.
laundry, we don't have a better location for that. If you can see upstairs, basically it's very compact too. So
yeah.
even for this laundry, we had to use the stack up. So it's not very spacious,
Yeah.
a sink and
Yeah.
very minimum. So we try to limit the footprint of the house, even though we have generous setback. Another question I want to clarify is the timeline, because we want to move forward as quick as possible. Of course, we will put in more thoughts in the design improvement, but can we bring it back the same time as the other one?
That, I'm reluctant to give you an affirmative on that because we have to do new public hearing notices. And actually, our notices for the meeting on the 12th go out this Friday. So without having plans in front of us, I'm going to say that would not be full. We do have a second meeting in March 26th, 1 month from tonight. That might be more practical. That gives you some time to prepare plans and us adequate time to notice the project.
And it would actually make me feel more comfortable if you had more time for, this project to think it through.
Yeah. I think it's, I think you can work with Ann on it. I think what we're hearing, what we're saying is that coming back on March 12th might be pushing it, and probably you couldn't do it because of the noticing requirements, and also there's a lot to do. But coming back on March 26th might be very reasonable, might be possible. And I don't know, there are many other projects pending too, but is that fair to say?
Yeah, our agenda load for the 12th already had 4 items scheduled. With the continuance, we now have a 5th, so I think it would be prudent to push it back to the 26th.
26 is a good goal.
Okay, all right. And then I would like to work with the neighbor closely, and I met some neighbors, right? Say hi. And then I never met you, so thank you for your comment, and we'll work together to improve this, this property. Yeah, all right. Yeah, maybe leave some phone numbers and contacts. Thank you.
All right, very good. Okay, please. Oh, no, yeah. No.
The objective for this evening was to do a study session so that they get the feedback when, right, about the plan, the floor plan, so on and so forth. When we come back later in March, ideally, everything would be finalized, posted prior to, of course, the hearing and so forth. It would be the Friday before the hearing, so it would be Friday, March 21st. No significant changes could occur. If there was a minor change, like an interior, changing an entire roof line or doing some. The applicant and myself.
The best way to do it is to be in contact with the applicant so that you see the changes before he submits them to us.
Yeah. So if there's a meeting on a specific date, like March 26th, then on the Friday before that, he puts the packet online. That's when we get it. And that's when you can get it. It's available to the public late that afternoon, 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock on the Friday before. And then you can submit letters up until noon
The day
of the day of the hearing. So noon on Wednesday is the cutoff for you to submit comments and letters. You can email them in, and they get distributed to us. We hate it when people bring in letters at 7 o'clock at night. It does happen, but we try to stop that. We don't like that, and if it's a study session, that's a whole different thing. Okay? All right. Okay, thank you very much. I think that will conclude this item then, and we'll move on with the rest of our calendar, with our agenda for tonight.
You guys can go out in the lobby.
Is there anything?
Excuse me, can you guys go in the lobby and talk?
Yeah.
We still have a
Yeah,
meeting.
we still have a little meeting to do
And I want to
here.
get home before midnight.
Great. Okay. Good. All right. No new business I can see here.
No new business.
Okay. Any announcements? Kind of covered them when David was here, huh?
Yeah, we have the housing element going to City Council on Monday evening, and the UC Village appeal will be held 1 week from today in the council chambers. Yep.
All right. I think I'll probably go to sit in, I guess, as chair here. I think I'll come to both those meetings.
Great.
Or at least one of them, at least Wednesdays. Yeah. I don't know about the housing element. That should go pretty smoothly, huh?
We don't know.
You don't know. Yeah, okay.
Other stakeholders.
And that's a special meeting, the council then for Wednesday is a special
For
meeting?
Wednesday, it is a special meeting, yes.
Okay, and just Occupy the Farm people going to be coming?
I would assume so.
Yeah, okay, all right. Nothing else? Okay.
Well, just communications. I just want to thank my fellow commissioners for taking seriously my concerns about the creek and the other application tonight. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was that close to getting up monopole.
We all come with our ideas and our thoughts. It's good.
Great.
That's good.
That's great.
I think, isn't it? It's good. Appreciate it, yeah. Okay, anything else? Nothing else, all right.
That's all.
The next meeting is March 12th. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting at 9:55.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.